We got as many badges last time as we have left to go, having defeated Titania and Amaria. Now, we are being summoned back to Chalcedon, and for once, we go straight there. Landing in the plot-driven city, we walk around and find that none of our friends are still on the streets outside. Walking into that apartment lobby we've commandeered, we discover the only two of our allies remaining, the steadfast Hardy and the newest arrival, Florinia. Florinia tells Hardy that whatever he is planning is probably unwise, judging by the fact that it has made several of our friends disappear. Hardy isn't willing to listen to doubt, as he notices us and pulls us over to hear from Florinia that she has located the origin of the Agate City sleeping signal. Hardy's ready to go take it offline immediately, as Florinia repeats that this is a bad idea. Hardy asks us what we think, and like usual, either of these answers will reward relationship points as you'd expect. Hardy says that there's nothing else we can do but track down the location of this signal, as he recounts everything that has happened. Laura was the original person to disappear, with Anna and Noel sneaking away and vanishing too. When Shelley arrived, she bolted out of here to find them, with Kane going along. But it goes further now. Saphira had gone off to the power station, only to not come back either, and finally, Charlotte went in search of Saphira. Hardy is glad we got back, and says now's our chance to all go and find them. However, Florinia warns that we can't abandon Chalcedon entirely, so Hardy tells her to stay to defend, something she also is doubtful will work. Hardy tries to reason with her about how she would think differently if this was her school, but she denies this. At that, Hardy becomes flustered and tells her candidly that she wasn't always like this with the verbosity and clinical nature. He tells her that her heart is still there. All she has to do is follow it. When Hardy leaves after telling us to meet him on the east side of Route 4, Florinia mentions how following a heart is pointless since it's just an organ. But one tiny crack in her demeanor appears. Hey, a plot TV, let's watch! Gossip Gardevoir begins by explaining the very thing we're here dealing with, disappearances and a slumbering city. She mentions how our numbers in Chalcedon are dwindling, but she goes on to announce that she's investigating it herself, and leaves us on a cliffhanger for what she has found. The next channel has the same interview with Heather as last time, which leads us into Arclight's show. We have 2 gym leaders left to face, and it should be obvious which one we are facing this episode. He just ran out the door. Arclight gives some background between Hardy and Titania, how they used to be thick as thieves, only for them to splinter when the seal type was discovered. Arclight continues with how Hardy has persevered despite the new type, using just about every rock song reference you can possibly imagine. Of course, Hardy's type is the rock type, and his ace is Lycanroc. That won't be all. I remember several of Hardy's Pokemon. It's a scary team. Just not as scary as... No, not yet. Let's go after Hardy now. But just as you're leaving Chalcedon, you'll find out that Florinia will not be alone. In the checkpoint in the east, Charlotte and an unconscious Saphira sit. Charlotte says that the reason Saphira is unconscious is that she burned her. Yeah, no. She asks if we believed her, and if you're in good standing with her already, you should say yes for another relationship point. I was a party pooper for some reason. Charlotte explains that Saphira was like this in the power center when she found her, and had just hauled Saphira back. She wasn't attacked. She was the attack. A lock of Laura's hair was in Saphira's hand, neatly cut, and Charlotte says that Saphira probably flew into a frenzy and smashed up the control center, shocking herself. She says this probably does mean that Meteor has Laura, and asks if we're going to do something about it. Saying yes to this does give you a relationship point too, so I'm par on Charlotte today. We head east now to reach that rock climb wall we saw 5 episodes ago, and Hardy is standing in front of it. He's surprised he didn't see the sisters when he left, but he's glad they're okay. Now he tells us that the signal we are searching for is east beyond this rock wall, and knowing we defeated Amaria, gives us the final HM. Rock climb. It's done. The last exploration move. Alright, see ya, Hardy. I'm gonna go exploring now. Anything to delay this just a little bit longer. Now, before we go climbing up every rocky slope we've seen this entire series already, We have one more restoration project to finish. Return to the Grand Hall and speak with the clerk to pay for the final project, the Azurine Nature Center, a venture that runs us $80,000 more. Also, for now funding all of the restoration projects, the clerk gives us heartfelt thanks for our support and says we can have one last gift. Absolite. This gift, as it were, comes from Ame. First her own Absol, then the Megastone for it. Go downstairs to the basement now and talk with the scientist who is working on the Azurine project. He tells us that he was asked for help getting some more Pokemon samples and contracts us to help. You'll need to surf to Azurine Island once more, which is easiest from the east coast of Apophil. Land on the island on the south side and find that the building that we battled Taka in before our first encounter with Solaris has now been upgraded. Out front, a ranger will ask if we have a Carnivine. Yes, here. For that, she gives us another egg. Looking at it, I'm pretty sure that it is a Chimchar. We'll carry it with us as we do this exploring. The inside of the Nature Center is completely overhauled from when we last saw it. A fully functioning facility used to breed Pokemon to populate the land. To the left is an enclosure with Bulbasaur, with the researcher nearby saying that this project with them is taking a while. Hey, you want to let me borrow one of these guys real quick? I have this device in Obsidia, I could make you a ton of eggs. Nearby is another lady who will then recognize us as the person who's come to help with their issue. She says that the Pokemon they need are Pansage and Fomantis. For that reason, she tasks us with procuring a male and female Lurantis and male and female Simisage. When we agree, she helps us out by giving us 2 leaf stones to evolve any Pansages we find, while leaving the leveling of Fomantis up to us. Of course, we can also just catch Luranti, as I have done already. Other NPCs in here will have some tidbits of mechanics to tell you, and a toxic plate waits on the table by the PC. Upstairs you can find some XL XP candy, an EV booster, and a Max Ether. Leave Azurine and go find the requisite Pokemon. Lurantis can be found fully evolved in Malchus Forest, while Pansage can be found in Rotocrene, among other places. Of course, after enough walking, the egg we got from the ranger hatches, and sure enough, it is the Fire Monkey starter. Only need one more for the final reset disc. Return to the island and deliver the 4 Pokemon, to which the lady thanks us and says the techie from the Grand Hall will have something for us. Return there, and he gives you Gracium Z. But don't think that's all for Azurine Island. If you return now, you'll see that the Simisages have taken over the pen inside the building where the Bulbasaurs were. You know what that means? Pokedex entry number 1. That's the next 3 starters ready to turn in. We'll go there soon. Now continue exploring around the island and pick up the items you can find, which most of the time are going to be those damn mushroom Pokemon. Knock those annoying bastards out. When you get to this guy on the east side of the island, he'll say that the fungus line is choking out other species on the island, and asks if we would help clear them out if we see them. Massacre the fungus on it. But as you slaughter the fungus Pokemon by the thousands, you'll find why I said to go do the story first to get rock climb. Up the rock wall we go for the first time, and our reward here is Poisonium Z. When fungus have been wiped off the face of the island, return to the guy who is surprised we were strong enough to kill so many, and before we ask any questions, he gives us a rocky helmet. Nice, another highly utilitarian item. Before we go on, let's go turn in 3 more starter eggs to Kanaya. Now I'm doing this here, but you may not be able to yourself. I took Froakie as my original starter, so that gave me 1 more than you could have. If you didn't pick Froakie, Torchic, Snivy, or the opposite of the gang you joined, which in my case was Litten, or otherwise Oshawott, then you'd have 1 less starter than I've shown. Don't worry though, because spoilers, we'll be finishing this side quest this episode. If you had enough starters like I did, then you will gain the final EV reset disc for speed. Where do we take our new rock climbing power now? How about the very first rock climb wall we discovered, the one in Barrel Cave? When you climb up a couple smaller paths, you'll reach this very tall one, which takes you to Teknite Ridge. Interesting that those mountains are this far south too. Go north and item finder several items off the ground until you come into a room that shows a message like last episode. However, unlike in those caves, the crystals are already here, but flicker dimly. How fortunate for me. In this case, the solution is to get into battle and transform Crystal Cavern into Dark Crystal Cavern using Dark Pulse, and my Houndoom is right here. Now with the cavern darkened, a cracked rock wall now becomes noticeable. We smash through it into another cavern with very strange star-shaped objects on the ceiling. This room has several nice items, such as an ability capsule and the Ruby Catching Charm. Another boost to our critical capture rate. But be very careful walking too far north if you aren't prepared, because you're about to find out what those orange objects are. They're cocoons, and out of one comes a Volcarona. Apparently, this Volcarona was just born at level 100. But that doesn't even begin to explain why this Volcarona is so powerful. I'll leave that detail for later in the episode. For now, how do we beat a Pokemon like this when it is 10 levels stronger than us? Well, this Volcarona, like all of them, has a favorite move, Quiver Dance. That sucks. Houndoom was up front and his flamethrower does pitiful damage after one Quiver Dance. Now I'll have to time the Destiny Bond just right, because if it uses an attack and I moved after using Destiny Bond, then I won't take it with me anymore. Unfortunately, it stops at 5 stages of stat boost right after my last Destiny Bond failed, and shoots Houndoom with Signal Beam. I Brave Bird on priority from Talonflame and take a huge chunk out of the bug, but it responds with a Death Beam, eating a berry for 25% more HP. It may have seemed like I was close, but then the vicious beast uses Giga Drain on Vanillix. And there goes the battle. Next attempt, I start with Heracross, because you know what Volcarona's other favorite move is? Rock ones. Okay, it hates those. Grievously. But Rock Blast does a good amount of damage, though falling short of a kill. This time though, Talonflame's Brave Bird easily takes it down. When the overleveled bug flees, we are now able to access another of the cocoons, and get a Larvesta of our own. Epic. Technically not a pseudo-legendary, so I can use it if I want to. Now speaking of Teknite, let's head all the way back to the other Teknite cave in the Tourmaline Desert and head up that rock wall we saw just last episode. Make your way back through the cave and go out the northwestern exit, cross the pillars, then reach the wooded area where we found the Mawilite. Ascend the rock wall we skipped and pick up 2 things, an ability capsule and another egg. One that looks to me like it could be a Torchic. Let's completely forget we have an incubator that can hatch the egg for us and walk 4,000 steps to hatch it ourselves. Great idea, audience! While we do so in Peridot Ward, as I'm used to doing, we can stop in at Mosswater Market. It looks like there's a new tutor here. He has some good moves. Very good strat-saving moves. Anyway, we walk out the rest of this egg steps and get ourselves a Torjangmo. Oh! I'm so bad at egg designs. Want to know what else is bad? This Jangmo's stats. Oh, garbage. Not like I'm using Como-O anyway. Next, I went to Citrine Mountain for another rock climb, which turned out to be a waste of time since the one here is just a shortcut to the greater mountain area. On the way though, we find a shiny Cubchoo. But there is one section of the mountains I want to return to. The one near Route 1 and Adventurine Woods. Ride a Tauros to get up to this ledge and into the mountain, cross that familiar ice rink again, then slide up to this rock wall. Ascend, jump into the water, then go down here to this strength puzzle that has taunted us for a long time. Push the boulder to the left, return down the rock wall, and head to the bottom left of the rink. Now you can access the ridge north of the boulder and find one item. Another of the best held items in Pokemon. A Life Orb. When you just need to kill better. And boy, will that be often. After getting back out of the mountains, the next worthwhile rock climb spot I go to is here on Route 2 near Fiore Mansion. That TM teased us for a while too, and now we can get it. Leech Life. The most buffed move in Pokemon. By the way, this Rage Powder tree here is how we could get past the Crustle nearby now that we have Rock Climb. If you keep heading north on the right side of Route 2, you'll find this rock climb wall with XP candy, which leads us to the ladder that goes back to Route 3. The rocky wall we're interested in is here, besides the one bridge that didn't collapse. Inside this cave with more forgotten machinery is a dragon fang and the TM for energy ball. There's another rock climb wall in the Route 2 area, this one, but it only serves as a shortcut up to Ametrine City. Not too useful. But it does remind me to go back into Celestine Mountain and do that tricky ice sliding puzzle again. When we slide back to the northeast of this cavern from this exact spot, we can climb up a ladder and find another slider puzzle. This one is pretty tough looking as it gives you a lot of directions to try, and then I just did it in 5 seconds. Go left into this little rock near the start, then up and left. Down, right, up, right, down, left, up, left, down. That gets you to the stairs to the water, where you can then surf and descend the waterfall. A long way. Even with a Pokemon that knows waterfall, how do you survive plummeting down a waterfall that's 1,000 feet tall? However you do, you reach this trove with a couple more juicy items. On the right is a Jolly Mint, left has more candy, and on the bottom on the small outcropping is Icium Z. That's one of my favorites. Now you might be very tempted to leave having found those items, but once again, there's a hidden reward if you know to go fishing. Dratini. Enjoy. With that, now bail out of Ametrine Mountain and head towards the tall mountain on the other side of the region, Mount Pyrus. You may remember when we were on Apophil many episodes ago and saw this TM teasing us. We can slide just down here for the TM for Focus Blast. The rock climb spot I can remember next is back in Tanzan Cove, which leads into the first major puzzle of the episode. Cross the lake to the cave in the west and descend down the wall to reach this room, which reads a message that the ground is unstable. You'll find that you're in Cave Field down here, so you should know the solution. Best if you bring a cave collapsing move of your own. Pick up the items in the room first before collapsing cave though, because as soon as you do, the room will get a lot bigger and deeper. When you scale the new wall, you'll walk right and find another pseudo-legendary standing above you, Larvitar. Near it is a green crystal, and when you use it, the rock blocking the staircase turns green. The Larvitar then moves to it and chomps it, then flees into a cave above. You can't follow it directly, but you can access its cave from another door. However, at this point, no matter what you do, there's no way to advance. I know I spent a lot of time trying things here, but you can't even encounter Pokemon in this room. Instead, you'll have to go somewhere else underground. Can you remember where? Before I answer that, shiny Seviper! Anyway, the place you need to go back to is in Tanzan Mountain near the destroyed meteor base, in the tunnels where the Mammoth Steelix was. You'll recall that there was a rock climb wall in that cave in the north wall of the chasm. Up that tiny ledge that you surely had no way of scaling before now, you can immediately find a muscle band. To the left from there is a rock memory, and then you can enter a cave. Inside here are 4 crystals, and the unstable ground message appears again. Collapse the cave as you did in Tanzan Cove, and the floor will fall away. This will seem like you made a mistake, especially as you walk around this cave and find several other small rooms all with holes in the floor, but this is all fine. Anyway, finish up checking out the cave by going up here. What? Who are you? That's Ranger Will. He has 6 Pokemon. Okay, they were no problem. Past him is a Big Nugget and Kangaskhanite. This upper area of the mountains is done. Head back to the lowest depths under the cove. When you come back to the room where you got stuck, you'll find what happened to the floor that fell out up above. Now these chunks of land are down here, and the crystals have become green crystals. Earlier, the Larvitar lunged at the rock you turned green with a crystal and ate it. That clues you in on the puzzle here. Larvitar sits waiting to be fed, and when you click on a crystal nearby, a rock that is in the direction from where Larvitar is sitting will transform, and it will immediately go eat it. In this way, you can control the Larvitar and use it to clear a way to the next room and to the items you can see in this room. However, if it cannot see a rock in the direction you click, it will not move. That can be demonstrated here. By approaching the item by eating all the rocks to the left of it, now Larvitar is stuck and can't finish the puzzle for you. You'll need to instead go right till it touches the wall, then up and left to loop around, opening up the item while continuing towards the exit. Once you are able to exit a room, the Larvitar will too. Collect the 2 items in this room, a timid and jolly mint. Entering the next room, you are given another iteration of this puzzle to do. You'll want to have Larvitar munch up the right side of the rocks first to burrow all the way up to that item, then dash all the way left again. Go up and right to then dig out that second item, lunge right, and head to the last section. One more item is trapped, so put Larvitar above the middle column of rocks and eat straight down, then left and down to free the item. Afterwards, just have it go back up, right, and down to complete the level. For your efforts, you get another focus sash. Awesome! Along with a modest mint, nugget, and an ability capsule if you go into the door that Larvitar used in the last room. Continuing on, you get another course to solve, one harder than before. That item on the left side is very tricky to get, because if you go all the way to the north, then Larvitar has no escape plan. But if you go straight up and leave the top 2 rocks, it still can't come down because the middle column is all gone. Instead, you must start by going left and around, leaving 1 rock at the bottom to yo-yo him back to the beginning and then go right. You'll see a long way around coming up, which means you should take it. Bring Larvitar down to this point, then have him eat west and south to open up that item, with a rock above him letting him return. Simply have Larvitar eat the remaining rocks and the puzzle is complete. Pick up the items in here, an Amplified Rock, Adamant Mint, and 4 Glitter Balls. Oh yeah! Of course, in the next room, it's time to claim the ultimate prize, the bloated Pokemon itself. After catching it, pick up the Z crystal next to it, Rockium Z. The generics are coming in fast. Get back to the surface from your underground excursion and head back to Van Hanen Castle. We are actually heading for Iolia Valley. We can reach it by rock climb here, which is simply another shortcut, but there was another rocky slope to ascend, at the back of Luna's gym. When you climb up, you'll find 1 more purple crystal to use, which morphs the room around you to reveal an item. That item is, yet again, a dark material. That makes 3 of this mysterious item, and 3 is the magic number. We can now use the dark materials for something, though how you know to do this, I have no idea. You have to take these items back to Sub-7 Sanctum, but just on their own, that's not good enough. You need to go out to 7th Street and buy another soul candle from the vendor. Now when you interact with the altar where we use the soul candle to find a lit wick, instead, the dark matter suddenly resonates with the altar. The dark creature that emerges from this unholy ritual is Dino. After catching the wretched Pokemon, we will have completed everything there is to do with Rock Climb, except for the location where we got the HM in the first place. Return to Route 4 and climb up the rock wall to hell. Up here in the mountains, there's a lot to see besides where we have to go for the story. You'll traverse these mountains using many HMs, especially our newest one. Right out of the gate, you'll spot a Megastone stuck behind some trees. Despite how close it is, that one will take quite a bit of time to reach. Climb up this wall to change screens, then up this one to check out a side area. You can slide down here and up from the valley ahead to get a full restore, then head back. To go north, you'll need to battle some trainers. And this is when the regular trainers start becoming very taxing. You'll surely need to head back to Calcinon to heal after a couple of these trainers. This will bring you to another rock climb, at the summit of which another of those messages appears. This one says that a chill is in the air, and I hope you have any ice move on you if you picked up the Icium Z. Otherwise, you'll need Blizzard or Hail. Up here, Mountain Field reigns, and if you use Blizzard or Sub-Zero Slammer, then you'll transform it into Snowy Mountain. You can also wait under 3 turns of Hail to do the same. You'll need to do this in order to make new rock wall steps appear to obtain an Ice Stone. Head back to the earlier junction and climb up the taller rock wall now. You ascend to a flowing river dotted with jumping squares. One of them will have stairs carved into them. Jump onto the islet close to one of its corners, then jump to the stone with stairs. Get into the water and swim up here to ascend another mountain. Up here is yet another ice stone, but a small building sits on the ridge just above. Climb back down to the river and navigate the blocks to reach the waterfall and ascend it instead. You'll get the chilly air message again, and after picking up a revive, get into battle in the grass to ice up the mountain again. Scale the wall, and you'll access the small shed, but stepping inside may start to make your hair stand on end. In the corner of the dark abandoned building is the TM for Thunderwave, but there's a cage here, with a sparking wire on the ground. If you stand on that wire and press your use key, then the cage will fly open. Inside is something that should not have been made. When you walk near it, it activates and makes you its target. Breloom Bot CL4R1C3, otherwise known as Clarice. This is obviously no ordinary Breloom. It is extremely dangerous, though only being at level 90. Talonflame is first against the Steel Fighting Simulacrum, going for Tailwind, while it sets up with Shift Gear for attack and speed. Talonflame strikes first next turn with Flare Blitz, but it only does a third to the durable bot, as it attacks back with Magnet Bomb to knock out Talonflame. What's horrible is that even with Tailwind, the Terminator Breloom outspeeds Houndoom and puts him to sleep with Spore. Oh, holy shit, it's gonna be like this, huh? It didn't even need to use Spore, as its Magnet Bomb utterly destroys Houndoom anyway. My Tailwind runs out, and my only choice is to use Greninja to water Shuriken. Even a 5-hit, though, doesn't bring me very close to victory, as Greninja is also terminated. I go into Mega Camerupt, but that is a wasted effort, as he's put to sleep and Shadow Punched once. Late, I send out Vanillix to start hailing on the robot, but he and Heracross are scrapped easily. Wow, a single level 90, and it stomps us that easily. This is very similar to the Medicham from Bixbyzian, but I'm not putting a Quick Claw back on Houndoom and sitting here for 25 attempts. Instead, I look at my speeds and find that Greninja is probably able to outspeed in a Tailwind. After Talonflame goes down the same way as last time, Greninja hits the Breloom machine with a Hydro Vortex, and it has enough power to short-circuit the non-living Pokemon. When it's over, the cause for the robotic Pokemon activating is revealed. A Ghastly emerges from the unresponsive robot, and will begin to evade you as you attempt to snare it. Run around the robot and carefully time your use press just as you come within walking distance of the Ghastly, and even if it moves away while talking, you'll still begin a wild encounter. Catch Pokemon's first Ghost type, and be done with this dread-soaked shed. Return to the river below to solve the rest of the jumping squares. You need to get to the bottom of the screen to move on, but there's another side path up this rock wall. When you get here, you'll be given a different message than before. Now, the snow slushes underfoot, which means we have to go in the opposite direction on the field effect, from snowy to not. That requires one of these moves, so get into battle with the worst Pokemon to see right now. You don't know what your kin will do. Lava Plume or whatever to melt the snow, then watch as the snow melts away on the map. Now you can see some stairs on one of the rocks, which lets you hop to the ledge where that cave is. Entering the cave will pop up yet another message about a dripping sound, with Icy Field present in this cave. In the center of this room is an ice rink, but try as you might, there's no way to reach the Megastone that's sitting there. But get into battle, and using a move like the one that melted the snow outside will melt the ice inside. The center rink turns into a pond, which you can surf on and obtain Heracronite. My Megas are all ready. Oh, by the way, there's a hidden item to the left in the pool. Another Focus Sash! They are just raining on us now. Now you might believe that it's time to leave. But wait. Why is the item finder pointing out an item up on that ledge? How can you reach it? Isn't this a closed-in pit? Not quite. If you head to the right side where this boulder is, then you can slip just by it onto that ledge. Then you can reach down from above and collect 3 more XL candy. Now we're done. Right? No. If you were to start running around the crater in a circle, you'll find the layers aren't separate. They wrap around a huge spiral. Go around a few times and you'll find that the walls give way to floors in the south, letting you ascend the shelf quickly. If you go around the largest ring in the cave to reach this corner, you can get a big nugget. Then on the way back I found a shiny Avalug. And then I killed it with Dark Pulse. Was that too much power? I didn't think so, but I forgot. I gave Houndoom the life orb. F in the chat. Anyway, at the south of this tallest part of the cave is an exit out onto a cliff. Pick up the nugget near the fallen Pokemon, then speak with it to discover it is a Bagon. After prodding it multiple times, it jumps up from its self-induced rest and continues what it was trying to do. Jumping from the rock attempting to fly. Buddy, you want to learn how to fly? Here, go get him.
And then he falls to his death. I'm just fooling.
We'll see how that went in a little while. For now, head back down to the previous cone-shaped cave to come back to that same river junction again. We have to jump from this island down to the southeast riverbank, then can skip that rock wall to head to the right. Battle this black belt to access another mountain path, at the bottom of which we are prompted to bring spring again. There's a mound in the snow here, but when we melt it, we don't find that Bagon we helped off the cliff, but something far more important. Lycanium Z. Finally, this deep into Reborn, you discover the Field Effect Delete button. A Lycanroc will now have the ability to use Splintered Storm Shards, and just about any field effect can be destroyed. Not all of them, to be clear, but a good number of them. Climb up again, and with no choice but to take another step towards the story, climb down this wall. Head to the right and battle a hiker, who after defeating him, tells you something about the mountain above us. It is called Charis Mountain, at the peak of which lies the Hall of Champions. In essence, our final goal. Soon, we will scale Charis Mountain to reach that place ourselves. Rock climb to the south now, where you are told to freeze up the area again. Doing that, you dust the east mountain side to make the handholds visible, and climb up. You're told to undo what you just did, as you notice an imprint in the snow with a particularly large head. Melt the snowpack and find that Bagon is alive and well. Okay, not that well, he's fainted. Throw a revive on him, which makes Bagon want to join you. Just like that, we have collected every pseudo-legendary. Head back the way you came now, avoid that trainer if you want since you can, and slide down one more rocky face. You'll reach another river, which you can cross with more jumping squares. Battle another trainer, then head to the left until you lay your eyes on them. In the ground, melting the snow above them, are several glass panes. We're here. A place I never wanted to come back to again. Hardy is here, but before talking to him, search around the shack in the river nearby. Behind the shack, you can ascend another wall to finally get at that crystal we saw at the beginning of this trek. Mimicium Z. If you head to the right into the river, you can hop over these rocks to reach this stair rock, giving you access to the island with a heart scale and max elixir. There's nothing else to do. It's time to talk to Hardy. He greets us warmly, as warm as the glass beneath our feet that's melting the snow. He knows there's something down there, but can't see anything. Hardy tells us that there used to be an abandoned glass factory near Agate City. He looks to the shack nearby and says he's willing to bet there's an entrance in there. Literally, he stakes 2,000 on it. Take that bet and head inside the shed. He asks you to help him search the cluttered shack, and after a minute of clicking everything to no avail, he says he also found nothing and wants to check outside again. We follow and look at the large sheet metal leaning against the wall. When we knock over the metal, the word that we read next should make your blood run cold. Devon. No, not again. Hardy knows that this is bad, but first pays up on the bet we made, an easy 2,000 for us. At this point, Hardy is out of ideas and takes out his gigalith to earthquake everything. He's met with great disappointment when none of the panes shatter, except for one off to the side. When we come and check it, there's a small shaft of the ladder heading down, the only way inside. As Hardy agrees, this is a really bad idea and a trap and a half, but isn't stopping now. He descends, and if I want to continue the game, despite everything in my being screaming not to, I have to follow. The ladder leads down to an elevator, in the roof of which is a trap door. Hardy forces his way in through that door into the elevator, and we climb in after. Hardy is about to hit the elevator button to head down to the lower floor until another voice speaks, calling us moths to the flame. But when that voice then goes into a long-winded analysis of that phrase, particularly obsessed with the moth, you may quickly realize who this is. It's Bennett. Apparently, since we last saw him, his terminal Yu-Gi-Oh condition was miraculously fixed. His ass-headedness, regretfully, was not. He then starts in by apologizing for how he acted at Iolia Valley, then asking if we remember what he told us he would do. That would be make things different. Despite his appreciation of our memory, he goes on to make his objective clear, when he mentions we have the sapphire bracelets, just as Lynn said. When Hardy pipes up to ask how we know, in his words, a tool like Bennett, the bug trainer becomes irritated at Hardy's name-calling, throwing it back at him that maybe Hardy shouldn't have taken the most predictable actions. He clarifies that the only reason we got to enter this place by breaking the glass was because they had treated all but one pane of the glass, to force our entry through one specific route. This one. Bennett jabs Hardy for not realizing this, while also calling his Pokemon weak. Hardy asks pretty Titania style if he wants to test that for himself, but Bennett backs away, saying that, despite being a member of the Elite Four, bullshit you are, he knows not to pick a fight he can't win, particularly a 1v2 fight. Instead, he tells us that we came into this factory in the exact spot they had planned for, and leaves the elevator, sealing it. Moments later, we fall prey to the sleep effect ourselves. Only for a sudden crashing sound to jar us awake. Hardy remains asleep. We can't use the elevator or leave through the normal door, so we must climb up the ladder again. Getting on top of the elevator, we find that one of the ropes had snapped, and fortunately we didn't die to this either. Up the elevator shaft by the ladder is a small opening, which we fit into. The moment we do, we are faced with a Glaceon. It then runs to the south, breaking through a vent grate. It stands to our right, and as we approach, it keeps leading us on. It waits at the bottom of a broken walkway, and when we talk to it, it gives a friendly cry, then turns to frost breath the catwalk to form an ice bridge. It jumps happily in front of us, and walks south, near to this ladder. It hops down the shipping crates and waits by what appears to be molten glass. If you peek to the left on this catwalk, you'll spot a megastone stuck behind a pallet of glass panes. In the southern room is a PC and healing station. Rejoin the Glaceon, who then freezes over the molten glass to make a walkway, crossing it. Somewhere nearby, a gruff voice yells at the Glaceon, snatching it as another voice yells to put it into the server room. Walking north, we find a meteor grunt here, who upon noticing us completely bails on fighting us. They lock themselves into the server room with Glaceon. Fortunately for us, there's exactly one glass pane in the side of this room. and Rock Smash easily shatters it. Seems like you should have treated this one too, Bennett. Step through the broken glass to frighten the two guards. One of them steps up to battle us while the other tries to handle the Glaceon. Jeff here goes down with no trouble, as the other grunt discovers she can't handle the Glaceon. With his ally not going anywhere, Jeff tells us he doesn't even care anymore, and lets the Glaceon go with us. The Ice Eevee is happy to follow us now, and if we talk to it, it will use Heal Bell to cure our party's status ailments. As well, it allows us to pet it. Only 2 evolutions left. Unlock the server room with the console on the right, then prepare to deal with the puzzle of the glass workstation. The first step involves using Glaceon on anything it can Frost Breath to form a path. The caveat to this is that Glaceon cannot climb ladders, so it's restricted to the bottom floor for now. Take Glaceon through the plant and have it Frost Breath every molten glass section we can get close to, forming bridges we'll need. As you work your way west through this first no-brainer section, you'll spot a second megastone to the south, blocked by more palletized glass. Once you reach the far west side of the room, you'll find another locked elevator and another entrance. When you approach, Glaceon will suddenly cry out, and within the room, we hear the cry of an Espeon. That rouses the guards in the room, one of which comes to try grabbing Glaceon. Hi. Deck this meteor, but he's too smart to let us in. With the door locked, we'll need to see if we can find another window to shatter, but as we walk around, there's no way to get close to... That entire box of glass slides out of the way after Espeon howls, and we are able to smash into this room. We can also smash through this window to the right, finding a separate guard. In this room with him is a Timid Mint, 3XL candy, and an item custom made in Pokemon Reborn, a PP All. You know how the PP Max, as the name implies, maxes out a move's power points? The PP All does that for all 4 of a Pokemon's moves. So valuable. How do you possibly know when it's time to use such a thing? Return to the room where Espeon was. Battle one more guard, but we can't release the Espeon in the cage. We need to find a key somewhere in the south of the factory. Unlock the west door, then go back outside and head up this ladder to the upper floor. As soon as you get up there though, and look across the eastern gap, you'll spot another stomach-lurching Pulse Dex. Without Glaceon able to help us bridge these gaps, we only have one direction to go. Left. Make your way around the upper catwalk, passing by another locked elevator and a PC, and climb down this ladder. This leads us to the singular place we can access, with one more grunt to remove. By this point my teammates are pretty banged up, and I didn't expect Vanillux to survive anything against this unpheasant. Clutch fucking master! We run through the rest of their team, and the grunt mentions that, even though we found this key, it won't let us into the central atrium. Pick up the cage key, then make your way back to Glaceon. Re-enter the western room and unlock Espeon's cage, who is delighted to be free and ready to follow you. That leads us into step 2 of this dungeon's puzzle. First, talk to Espeon, who can then use Future Sight. What this does is show you a somewhat obscured vision of the next step we need to take to get through this dungeon. Of course, after that, the Espeon will let you pet it. In less than 10 minutes, we are down to one more evolution, Sylveon. If you head back outside, you'll find Glaceon waiting, who you can switch Espeon with when you need it. For now though, you need Espeon. It allows you to move glass when you click on it in the direction you click, as long as that direction is not coming at you. In that case, move the same pallet that Espeon moved earlier to return to the east side of the warehouse. To the south are 3 more glass bundles, which you can move around to create a pathway to walk, the Megastone taunting you. Slide this bundle upwards and access another new room. Inside is an Acolyte who becomes another victim to a 1 HP Vanillux. In this room with him are 2 Eevee boosters. Every one of those is welcome. Go out and left again to move this 2x2 pallet up to slip through the southern side of the factory. back to the room where you found the cage key. There was a TM on the right side of that room, so have Espeon clear a path for you. It's fairly easy. Just have it move each bundle to the left, which frees the TM for a move Espeon loves and I love too. Psychic. Dig your way back out of the room and go to the east side of the workstation. You can easily move this single pallet out of the way of this first crystal. Sablenite. Go back over the hardened glass bridges, push that same pallet back down to get it out of the way, and approach these bundles. You can get to the window ahead by moving that very long pallet to the left. Shatter the glass and enter, which pits you against 2 techies at once. However, they only have 6 Pokemon total, so wipe the floor with them. Afterwards, the left guy will tell you how it was that the sleep effect worked. When we were on the elevator when Bennett stalled us, they moved the pulse to aim its effect at us, putting us to sleep. However, when the elevator rope snapped, we got out of its line of effect, very fortunately. This room possesses the controls for the elevator, adding the extra dimension we need to continue the dungeon. This doesn't let us use the eastern elevator still, as, it's broken. But you can make your way to the west again to use that elevator. You'll find that there are 3 levels, the lowest one, the one above, and the ground floor, which takes us out into that shed where Hardy and I first searched. Guess Hardy won the bet. Shh, don't tell him. The evolution you need to bring up to the upper deck is Glaceon, so move this glass and take it along. On the second level, go down here to have Glaceon synthesize a bridge for us, and enter this room with another cultist. Here in this room, we obtain 3 XL candy and an EV tuner. There is something else, a book, which is labeled as Volume 3 of Team Meteor's roster. Where's Volume 2? Hold on that for a little bit. As for this volume, it names Eclipse, Aster, Terra, Zero, and Lumina and Evelyn Sejaya. Even Lumi. Have Glaceon then freeze over this gap and take the next Pulse Dex into our hands. Closing in. One more gap up here lets you reach this left room, which contains a lot of glass bundles tightly cluttering this room. We'll bring Espeon up for this. Keep going and freeze this gap over a door that... No, I'm not there yet. Head over to this last accessible room, in which there are 3 devices shaped like beds, but looking more like coffins. The screens at the foot of each bed read names. Names we just read in that roster. Lumina and Evelyn. The screen then inquires if we want to release them. When we release Lumi's chamber, we find... Anna? What? When you approach her with Glaceon, you are prompted to use Heal Bell on her. When doing so, she is awakened. She is happy to see us, but mentions that this isn't the time for her to wake up yet. Nostra says they have to sleep longer. This isn't the time for games, Anna. So obviously in the bed next to Anna is Noel, who upon waking tells us we don't need to bother with him. Only Anna matters here. He doesn't have any idea why they came here. It was at the behest of his sister, which of course means it was at the behest of her doll. What is going on here? In whatever case, take the items from the table, more candy, and the meteor card. This card is the way into the menacing room below. All we need now is to clear the way to it. But there's something else this card can do. A different place it belongs. And I need what it possesses now. I have to leave this place entirely and go to the last location of despair. The Devonix building, where we were forced to battle each other for Lynn's enjoyment. Where Ame. Inside, that console that asked for an ID before now accepts us. 3 chutes open up, and we slide down them, entering an equally red room. A door waits on the right, and when you go in, you may recognize this room. In our omniscience, we watched Ace attempt to make their final act against Lynn here. What has happened to them now, it is impossible to know. There's another EV tuner and 5 more candy, plus the Missing Personnel Roster Volume 2. Blake and Cal, Corey. Ace, who I must amend, is their actual name, Nashira being another space-related code name. Paul Clark, the real name of Sirius. And then a name that you had hoped wouldn't be here, Thomas Van Hanen. Almost assuredly, Radimus. It's only fitting that the man associated with the game that uses a checkerboard pattern would have a checkered history. The roster ends with one last name. The only enemy we still have not faced ourselves. Lynn. Codename Absolute. But there's an additional slip of paper that says we might enjoy the extra challenge. What? Well, let's walk back outside and witness the most daunting puzzle in Pokemon Reborn. At the south end of this room, 18 monitors adorn the walls, with 3 consoles between them. When you click on the active console in the middle, the rules of the game are shown. You must add up numbers in each line through the center of both 3x3 grids to equal 15. Horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. Besides the center squares, the squares on each side must not match. With that, the 18 monitors blink on with numbers on each one. In case you aren't familiar with this puzzle, it is called a magic square puzzle. But you don't usually have to solve 2 squares at once. Now I can't be sure if this is the same puzzle, but back before episode 18 was released, one of the developers on the Reborn team was tasked by Ame to make sure the puzzle she created was solvable. The developer created a program to solve it. It took 3 minutes and 5 million moves to solve. Most likely, that refers to this puzzle. And I believe this is the most brain-breaking puzzle to solve in the whole game. I'm not qualified enough to give actual advice or strategies to solve it, as it requires a lot of math and computational know-how, and I'm actually okay with both of those things. Big JRA has a great guide on how to deal with this puzzle in his walkthrough. As for me, I've dealt with this thing 3 times, and somehow, on the first 2 files I did, I blew through this puzzle in very few moves and little time. I don't know why I was able to do that back then. I'm going to offer what little advice I have and show the way I ended up solving it. And yes, there's a skip shard down there that I could use to bypass solving this a 3rd time. Again, let's ignore it. The first thing to know is that your moves are to cycle the numbers of a given row or column up or down. Moving numbers in a row does mean they go across from one wall to the other, so duplicated numbers can be on the same side. You should have no duplicate numbers on one side. If you do, then you're not in a position to solve it. Second, the numbers that appear on the screens are not random from game start. If you leave the room and come back, the numbers will reset to the same positions every time, meaning that there is a set solution. Lastly, the trios of numbers you need to form to add up to 15 on each row, column, or diagonal are 159, 258, 357, and 456. In terms of general advice, that's all I can give. But regarding my experience with it, I distinctly remember solving this puzzle in like 15 moves. I was stunned when I did it, and I wasn't even sure how I had done it. However, this time around, I was not so fortunate to find a way that quickly. The first goal I had was to get the 2 5s into the centers without causing duplicate numbers to pass across the gap. Easier said than done, as the 2 5s aren't aligned to go to the center at once easily unless you disturb 2 rows, which makes things messy. I then looked for a number that, if I moved a row, would bump the same number across the walls, such that there would be no duplicates on either wall. From the starting position, the only number that fulfills that idea is 9. You can move 9 to the right if they are on the same row, and both sides will keep a 9. After several failed attempts, I got so far as to nearly have a completed side after using that technique. However, in my case, my 4 and 1 were reversed, and I knew I had already used way more moves than I knew I had to. I tried a different approach when I saw that 8, 2, 5 could all be in the same row on either side, so by shifting that row 3 times, you'd also have balanced walls. Unfortunately, this didn't go anywhere since the 5s were stuck next to each other instead of getting to their centers. Then I figured out a tech that worked very well to keep the sides free of duplicates. I moved the left 5 in the bottom row to the right, so that the 2 9s shifted from their sides, then put the 5 into place. But then I realized that whatever number was in the middle columns wouldn't leave their side if you move the row back the opposite direction. This got me pretty close again to having a side solved, but 2 numbers are transposed. Still, this tech ended up being the key as I worked on this more. Then I had an attempt that went very well, and I thought I had it. I brought down the right 5 into the center, pushing the middle row to the left with both 8s on the row, then moved the left 5 in place of the first 8, and then both 5s were in the center with no duplicates. Even better, I discovered that the left side was solved. But I felt defeated then. The right side was a mess. None of the lines were correct. By pushing the top row to the right, I discovered that I could pull the 9 from the right middle square to the top middle, thereby solving 2 lines. I was so pissed when I found that I was off the solution by 2 numbers, the 7 and 8 on the right. I was so close to figuring this out, but it was already late, and my brain was fried from staring at this for an hour and hearing this track repeating over and over like a fever dream. That attempt, though, is what was needed to form the blueprint for the solution, which I will give you now. You can actually solve the left side square in 4 moves. Row 3 right, column 2 up, row 3 left, and column 3 down. The trick here is that row right something row left move. That allows you to move pieces in between columns on a side without wrecking the other side. Now we move to the right side, which for clarity, I'm calling the 3 columns on the right side columns 4, 5, and 6. 6 being the far right column. Column 5 down, row 3 right, column 5 up, row 3 left. Row 1 left, column 5 down, row 1 right. What this did was put 3, 5, 7 into the center column together, such that all of the columns now have the correct number for their trios. And I swear, last time, this was the amount of effort I put in to solve this. I don't know if it is actually possible to solve in 11 moves, but I felt like it was. Unfortunately for me, I'm not there yet. Once again, 2 numbers are mixed up on the right, 2 and 9. However, I had worked out a way to swap their places, which is through the fortunate position of the left side 2 being in the leftmost column. This means I could have both 2s be on the right, which lets me move one of them out without ruining the left side, so that I could have more freedom to swap the 9 around. To get in that position, I do column 1 down, row 1 left, column 6 up, and row 1 right. This moves the 9 to the right, but that's okay. It'll stay there until we need it again. Column 6 down, row 1 left, column 6 up, row 1 right, column 6 down, and column 1 up. Finished. Disgusting, heinous puzzle. But the rewards you get from it are astounding. The TM for Thunderbolt. Darkinium Z. Gardevoirite. Absolutely massive improvements to our arsenal. One of those being something I desperately wanted now, and another I learned would be just as valuable. Finally, the numbers on the walls all scrambled up when we solved the double magic square, and 6 of those numbers are now colored white. From left to right, it reads 139794. I'd write that down if I were you. Now, I have to return to the glass workstation. When I get back, I take Espeon on the lower floor and have it ride with me to the upper floor, back to that cramped room. To get down to that item, you'll need to move the glass around in a very claustrophobic fashion. First, slide this glass right by standing below it, then the glass to your left should go up. Move the glass below you to the left in the gap the previous pallet made, then shove the bundle beneath to the lower wall. Move that middle glass bundle to the right from below, and then slide the bottom left pallet up. This nets you an item that by name does not exist in vanilla Pokemon games, but by function, it absolutely does. The Reborn Ball. The Pokeball named after the game, you surely can guess what it does. It will catch any Pokemon without fail. The Master Ball. What do you think you'll use it on? The game would have us make our way to the central atrium now. You can get close to it by shoving this long pallet to the right, then bring Glaceon up to this molten glass. Freezing and crossing it, you obtain 5 XL candy, and are given the most foreboding light shard in the game. The door is still not accessible yet. One more puzzle, but make that 2. There's a Megastone still stuck in the south of the workstation. The problem is that we can't access it from the right. We have to get to the left, but a molten glass river blocks the way. So we need Glaceon down here, but we can't get there with Glaceon only. The problem is that Glaceon keeps waiting by the room where we got Espeon at first, but the glass blocks it off once we start using Espeon. Well, we can have Glaceon default to another spot. Take the Ice Eevee to the elevator and go to the ground level, then leave. Glaceon will not follow us outside, but when we come back, it will be waiting by the elevator with Espeon still waiting by the west server room. Have the Psychic type move this pallet up, and then we want to station Glaceon somewhere else. Over by this ladder on the right side. Once there, have Espeon move the bundles to make the path to that ladder accessible. Have Espeon stay there and go get Glaceon. Bring it to Espeon and swap them, which lets you slide this last bundle up 1 tile. That gives you the lane to bring Glaceon over to this molten glass. Use Espeon once more to move these pallets around to easily access Gyarados. You'll want to move Glaceon in reverse to the ladders it waited at to get it back to a usable spot. By the way, you'll want to get these 2 Megastones here now, before making your way to the central atrium. Otherwise, it will take a really long time to get them otherwise. Now comes the final part of the puzzle, in the north. This one though will definitely stump you at first. You can have Espeon move these 2 pallets to get near to the door from the right, but another molten glass stream separates you from the end. No matter how you mess with the 2 pallets down here, there's no way to open a path from outside this section back to the left without blocking off the molten glass. I really didn't want to use Future Sight to tell me the answer, so I struggled with this for a while. Moving both Eevees over here by this ladder got me no closer though. Finally, I conceded defeat and spoke to Espeon to help me figure it out. But upon trying to learn the answer, I found the answer. You see, when you speak to the Eevees in some parts of the warehouse, they only use their respective moves. But up here, you are offered a second option. Wait here. Really? It makes me feel both dumb and annoyed that this was the answer, but the final step is pretty clear now. Take Glaceon, stand right here next to these pallets, and tell it to stay here. Get Espeon and move the glass like before, but now Glaceon is right beside you. It frost breaths the final glass, and with Espeon, you can move these bundles out of the way to swipe the ID on the console, opening the atrium. Last step is to move the glass south of you again to slide this pallet to the right. Now, you can access the room. Oh my god, I'm actually here. I'm actually doing this again. Let me tell you something about this spot I'm standing in. It's mostly a feeling rather than a fact, but where I'm standing right now is the spot that has seen the most resets of any single tile anywhere in the game. Not just for me, for all players. You will reload after you lose what's about to happen, and you will see this room. Espeon stands behind you, always believing in you. But can you actually do this? In case I haven't made it evident already, I have been fearing this moment since minute 1 of this playthrough. I fear it just like I feared it when I restarted the game when Reborn was completed, when I knew I'd have to defeat this sequence again, the one I had just suffered in agony through in my second file, and it's not like I've hidden that fear all this time. If you don't like it, you're in the wrong place. It's still pretty basic, but basic doesn't mean it won't cause you great distress. Wait. What? No. Agate City. A rock climb wall to hell. I'm not ready. He needs to go to Agate. Even now, I dread what I have to do for the third time. When I last survived this, I told myself, never again. And now, here we are. There are several names for what is going to take place when you step through that door. I have a name for it myself. Glass Hell. What I'm about to say will be contested by some, but it is truly how I feel. This is the hardest sequence in the entire game. Glass Hell is so far beyond anything you've done, not just in Pokemon, not just in Reborn, but in video games in general. The madness that is about to occur will make the Fiore Gauntlet look simple and fun. Speaking of that, I likened Fiore Gauntlet to ascending a vaulting mountain, with the ever-present terror of being thrown off. This won't be a mountain. This will be a descent into hell. This is also the gateway into the endgame. Mid-game ends as soon as you attempt Glass Hell. What remains of this game will feel more like the following sequence than anything you've seen before now. So what have I prepared for Glass Hell? I've not come without a plan. In fact, I've been devising this team for literal weeks. Of all the sequences in Reborn, I remember the opponents in this one the most, so I'm hoping this can deal with everything. First, Talonflame. He's been very important to many of my teams since Samson, and depending heavily on the circumstances, he may be just as pivotal here. However, it will be very important that he remains at full HP at some points, so I'm leaving him empty-handed so he can use acrobatics at full power. All 4 of his moves, though, will have utility, including, of course, Tailwind. But Tailwind can't do all of the work, and neither could Trick Room. Instead, I need something else that can give me a speed advantage. Sticky Web. So you may think that means the avatar of Fury, Kricketune, is back. My friend, I'm sorry. You are dear to me, but it can't be you this time. Because you see, there's something in this battle coming up that needs to die in one hit, and Electric is super effective against it. So when you combine Sticky Web and Electric, what Pokemon do you get? Galvantula. A brand new Pokemon, one I've never used, but it has everything I need, including a move it cannot learn naturally, Thunderbolt. By the fucking skin of my teeth, the meteor card that led us into the monstrous Magic Square puzzle appeared at the last instance before Glass Hell. There was a backup plan to breed for a Joltik using Vikavolt if Electro Ball wasn't enough, but then I discovered it would be possible to obtain the Thunderbolt TM instead. As well, as I said, Galvantula has Sticky Web, which surpasses both Tailwind and Trick Room. It will lower the speed of my opponents, and it has infinite duration. The only risks are flying types and possible hazard clearing moves, but besides that, Sticky Web will incredibly assist a team that is mostly fast. The only one that is not all that fast is Arcanine. However, Arcanine is fairly bulky, so if some of the ultra speedy Pokemon can hit her, she can probably take it. Arcanine is here to use Heat Wave, but Crunch and Close Combat may see some use too. Arcanine isn't the last fire type either. Houndoom is here too, who is also boasting a last-minute gift from the Magic Square puzzle. Darkinium Z. I had the choice of using Furium Z, but fire is pretty well covered. One very powerful dark attack is going to be incredibly useful here. while his usual Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, and Destiny Bond as a last resort will all pull a ton of weight. Then, Heracross. The speed I lamented last episode against Amaria will be much more appreciated here. Heracross has been beefed up with both Bulldoze as a thin ground coverage move, but better than that, Stone Edge. Though it has less accuracy than the move it replaced, Rock Blast, its power is undeniably better. But now seeing the team so far, and the fact that Heracross doesn't have Pin Missile, Rock Blast, and Heracronite, you may be wondering where my Mega is. It isn't Houndoom, so who is it? A new addition. Something that I have high hopes is going to absolutely shred. Mega Aerodactyl. Oh yeah, one of the most frightening Megas you could encounter. Right up there with Gengar. Mega Aerodactyl is fast. Fast! And he hits like a fucking meteor. Rock Slide is going to be incredible for what's coming up. While he also has Stone Edge, Crunch, and my personal favorite, Iron Head. A move that is boosted by his Mega Evolution's ability, Tough Claws. Aerodactyl is going to crush anything he sees. I thought long and hard about this team, and I'm hopeful about their effectiveness. And just to be clear, every single one of them is at the level 90 cap. But now comes the reality of all this. I have never beaten this sequence without using items in battle. Never. I maybe got away with no items at Fiore before, but doing it here will be a personal achievement. It will be unbelievable. Once again, I'm instituting my soft rule. If after 65 attempts in Glass Hell I still have not overcome it, I will begin to use items in battle. Take one step forward now into Glass Hell. A step you've seen throughout this series many times. Now you can see what lies beyond. As soon as you enter, the two evolutions run inside and hide to the left. That's when a voice yells out after them. You step forward and see the pulse. The one that has put Agate City into an interminable slumber. Hypno. Your eyes will be drawn several other directions in the room. First, to the person speaking now. It's Zero, above the Hypno, while Bennett is to the right. Beside him is Laura. Zero, still referred to as Zell, but only the Z will be capitalized now, speaks as though Lumi and Eve are still within his consciousness. It becomes obvious Zero is not okay. It's then that Zero yells at us that the two Eeves that had helped us through this place were theirs. Eve's and Lumi's Pokemon assisted us. But what about their owners? It's then that Zero then accuses us of stealing away the other two voices that had inhabited his mind, and how quiet it is now. Bennett then cuts off Zero's psychotic episode, telling us that he hardly expected otherwise that we'd eventually stand here. However, he bitterly labels our successes as unearned privileges that the world has bestowed on us, saying how he had only got such privileges recently. As for us, he mutters, we've had fortune since the moment we entered Reborn, but now he intends to test that fortune. He commands Zero, who then tells us we're about to experience what it's like to have our friends ripped from us. He then roars at the Hypno to bring them out. And thus, our last two friends are found, Kane and Shelly, who walk out wordlessly before us. Bennett tries to rush Zero's gloating over us, saying more people are expected soon, but is confident. He then tells of the other ability that Hypno has besides sleep inducement. Hypnotic control. Bennett says that all of this was thanks to Laura, who made herself easy prey to steal away, thus bringing everyone here, culminating in my arrival. Now, we have no choice. the battle begins against Kane and Shelley, which now throws off all pretense. Bennett says he was not foolish enough to battle two opponents by himself. Now here we are, doing exactly that. You must defeat 12 Pokemon by yourself. What? Alolan Marowak? I thought... Fuck, my memory did not serve me well enough. You all know which Pokemon Kane has that I can't stand. Primarina, which was the entire reason for Galvantula up front. But now I discover that's not true. Instead, Alolan Marowak starts along with Ribombee. Well, now I know that Galvantula's first attack has to be Sticky Web, so we control whatever the hell else happens, but I'm also fully expecting that Marowak is going to Rock Slide us. However, I can't care about that. Ribombee is going to use Sticky Web as well, but Talonflame can say screw that and cut her down with one Acrobatics. Galvantula manages to go second in Sticky Web, but then, as I predicted, Rock Slide kills Talonflame immediately. But to my immense luck, as all first attempts have, it misses Galvantula. At this point, my plans are already going south, so I go into my fastest and most powerful Pokemon, Aerodactyl. Shelley sends out a Volcarona next, something that is going to become very common. However, against a Mega Aerodactyl's Rock Slide, as long as it hits, then it'll die. Indeed, it kills Volcarona and almost kills Marowak, but then I misstep and use Thunderbolt on the Marowak. Even though it isn't ground type, this one has Lightning Rod, so it gets a boost and doesn't die. But I'm bailed out again by it flinching to Rock Slide. I already hate this. Look how much this fight has gone my way in terms of luck. Now imagine it didn't. Shelley's third Pokemon is Leavanny, who is also liable to Sticky Web. However, my own webs will assist me incredibly. Hey, wait a minute. What is that Pokemon's name? Oh, so you named a Pokemon with two double weaknesses after me. What the hell, Shelley? I Rock Slide again, as Galvantula goes for Bug Buzz against Leavanny, but Aerodactyl is this much of a beast. He kills Leavanny right away, but his rocks miss the nearly dead Marowak. Fortunately, Galvantula did use a move to hit the Marowak too, and it goes down. But now here comes that horrible Pokemon I prepared so hard for, Primarina, next to a Vivillon. Shelley is absolutely fodder to Rock Slide, while Primarina has a Thunderbolt target on its forehead. Aerodactyl crushes another bug type, and Galvantula easily outspeeds and takes out the Primarina, who, losing half HP to Rock Slide, was surely dead to Thunderbolt. But we're only halfway done. Shelley's second last is Yanmega, while Kane sends out Alolan Muck, one of the only things in this fight I can't hit super effective very easily. I don't like that Galvantula only has special attacks, which are not likely to do a lot to an Alolan Muck, but it's pointless to attack the Yanmega since Aerodactyl has it covered. But I had to go and open my big mouth. Rock Slide misses both targets! Thunderbolt does decently thanks to the Factory Field effect, but in comes an Air Slash to also miss! But Muck then punches my Mega with Thunder. Oh, he lived! But now I'm very angry about the miss on Yanmega. Heather over there just speed boosted while obviously not getting caught in the webs, so it's possible it outspeeds Aerodactyl. Indeed, it does. Indeed, it does miss again. That's absurd luck. Aerodactyl goes on to wipe out both of their Pokemon. Shelley is down to her last Pokemon, the one she named after her zombie partner beside her, Scolipede. Meanwhile, Kane has finally come to his ace, and the Pokemon in this fight I'm the most worried about, Nidoking. I want to hit that bastard with an Iron Head right now, but Rock Slide is too much to pass up on one last bug. As for Galvantula, his position right here is pretty bad, but he goes for Bug Buzz against Nidoking in the hope we can force him down with two resisted attacks. Scolipede is rocked and Shelley's team is finished. but both of our attacks only bring Nidoking to yellow, while it blizzards to finally remove my awesome Aerodactyl. Galvantula barely survives, as I now send out Houndoom for pure power. I throw the Darkinium Z attack now, Black Hole Eclipse. Overkill and a half, but I don't care. It appears I may be winning this fight. Kane then sends out another evil Pokemon, Mimikyu, but in doubles it's much more manageable. I break its disguise with Bug Buzz, then use Dark Pulse, but unfortunately it survives comfortably. It Shadow Claws down my Spider, who also did very well in this fight. I go into Heracross next now, and there's nothing the Mimikyu can do to survive again. This brings it to the very last Pokemon, Meowstic. Houndoom Dark Pulses it, and with a crit, the fight is over. The fight is over. Glass Hell is not over. With our hypnotized friends defeated, Bennett is not surprised, but is prepared. He tells Zero to begin the next step by giving up Shelly. Shelly suddenly recognizes us before fainting, and then... We are not immune to the effect of Hypno. What happens next is strange and intentionally obfuscated. Without sight, speech is heard but not complete. However, you can deduce what each speech block says. Don't worry, I'll write it out for you. As for what they're talking about, well, you'll have to wait longer for that. And then, this happens. If you had believed that Glass Hell was anything but a gauntlet, you'd be fooling yourself. On top of that, all of the confusion and hopelessness that you can possibly feel is doubled by this track, returning to haunt you from Shade's Gym. This unknown opponent now opens with something that has given me so much grief. Weavile. Here's the thing. The order you set up your Pokemon matters immensely. Talonflame and Galvantula were in the starting line of the first battle, because I absolutely wanted Talonflame first here. It sucks though, because if Aerodactyl could be here, then this would be no trouble. Talonflame has to be the choice, so we have another plan. Weavile can't outspeed Gale Wings. So Talonflame starts with Tailwind. Now as long as he survives this Icicle Crash... He did, and with enough HP. Now please kill with Flare Blitz! No, it's over. Holy shit, I didn't remember the Focus Sash. Oh my god. With another Icicle Crash, Talonflame goes down, and we lose. What? Why so soon? You'll see. In this situation, Aerodactyl is easily able to finish off the Weavile. We'll now send an Umbreon. It's too early to know what the best approach is here. All I know is that I want to hit weakness, so I go to Heracross. But then I make a bad play, wanting to avoid defense drops with close combat and use Megahorn on the Dark Evolution. It misses. Umbreon hits only with a marginal foul play, and fortunately, after Tailwind fades, Heracross still outspeeds and lands the second horn to one-shot, though the extra power from Guts may have made it possible only now. Next from the unknown assailant is Mismagius. I decide I need to see if Aerodactyl has the power to one-shot it with Crunch, because the Ghost type pops a Synth Seed to get a guaranteed crit, so it has to die before attacking. Fortunately, Mega Aerodactyl's Crunch is enough to kill it. Gothitelle is next, so I leave Aerodactyl out to do the same thing. But even with his ability Tough Claws to boost his contact damage, Crunch falls far short of a KO, so Gothitelle gets to come in with a crit foul play. Holy shit! Aerodactyl surviving on scraps everywhere! He finishes off the Psychic type, one that I now realize the relevance of being in this fight. Never mind. We're actually close to victory here, but the worst isn't over. It will arrive soon. Next out is one of the other horrible Pokemon. One that I'm scared of greatly. Honchkrow. Oh yeah, it's Sucker Punch time. And I can't let Aerodactyl be here now. Instead, I need to learn also if Galvantula can kill this damn annoying bird with Thunderbolt. Of course, the most expected move of all time, Sucker Punch, comes out first. Thankfully, though it did so much, Galvantula lives and Thunderbolts the Crow down for a one-shot. But now comes the final and worst Pokemon of this battle, and one whose relevance is even easier to see. Absol. With the likelihood that more Sucker Punch is waiting for me, I have to remove Galvantula, but this is dangerous. I know that Heracross can kill it, but I don't know if she can outspeed or survive an attack. I send her out, to which the mystery opponent then tries to speak to me, but their voice only comes halfway through. They say, those who have lost most always find each other. But wherever are you looking? Now, why worry so much about an Absol? Because that, and as I feared, Mega Absol is faster and easily kills with Play Rough. It's truly over now. I send out Aerodactyl and have to hope that if I even have a shred of a chance, Aerodactyl kills with Iron Head. He doesn't. But he gets a clutch flinch. My Mega defeats the Mega Absol, and we win this battle. But Glass Hell is still not over. And the worst part comes now, because I have already lost. Why? Look at my Pokemon and realize the horrifying truth. The ones that fainted last battle are still fainted. Unlike the second phase, where all of my Pokemon got up from the first phase, this third phase gives you no quarter. The ones that lived are healed, mysteriously, as my Galvantula shows, but my Talonflame and Heracross are gone. And worst of all, you now have to defeat 12 more Pokemon. Thus I can say the other names I had for Glass Hell, or as most people call it, the Glass Gauntlet. I also call it the 5-on-1, or the 30-on-6. This battle is so far beyond unfair. And think about this. This is episode 18, the penultimate episode. What could lie beyond? We will never know. Not in this attempt, at least. The third phase begins against two further unknown people, as they send out a Clefable and a Alolan Ninetales. Hellish. Ninetales will absolutely put up Aurora Veil now that it started a hailstorm. For that purpose, I must focus down the Ninetales rather than hope Arcanine can do it with Heat Wave. What's amazing is that Thunderbolt just one-shots the Fox, while Heat Wave takes 2/3 off the Clefable. But my crushing continues when Clefable incinerates my Galvantula with Fire Blast. At this point, my chances have all gone to hell. I have to struggle as hard as I can to see if I can somehow still force my way through this. I send out Aerodactyl, who is aiming Iron Head at Clefable. In walks Alolan Sandslash. Why is every Alolan form a problem? I attempt to go for Iron Head and Heat Wave, but Sandslash goes first to Iron Head Aerodactyl to not death. Heat Wave then kills both of the Pokemon in front of us before Clefable got to go. But the hail ends my Aerodactyl, falling apart right at the end, like it always does. I send out Houndoom as my hope is fading, and in front of me arrives both Glaceon and Espeon. What? But didn't you just help me through this place? Who is it that I'm fighting? My side actually seems really suited to defeat these two evolutions, but horribly. Espeon goes first to Psyshock Arcanine into dangerous HP, as Houndoom Dark Pulses it once to KO it. But even worse, 1,000 times worse, is what Glaceon does. With the hail still falling, Glaceon sets up Aurora Veil. Heat Wave can no longer kill. And what's even worse is that the Life Orb on Arcanine paired with the hail is too much for her to survive. Then a Metagross comes out. Well, that Metagross can fuck right off with this Black Hole Eclipse. I knew you were coming, you asshole. Glaceon blizzards me for about half, and my time has run out, as a Gardevoir appears on the right now. And that Gardevoir is also Mega. The first attempt comes to an end, and now, as if it weren't clear, let me show you what happens if you take the loss. You are taken back to your last heal point, which ended up being outside of the glass workstation, but the point still remains. There is no shortcutting this. If you lose against any of these three phases, then you are sent all the way back to the beginning. This is Glass Hell. Now comes the strategizing. The agonizing strategizing, where I must now consider what in the fuck I need to change in order to get back to that point with a better shot. Here's the crux of it. You must not lose any Pokemon in the second fight. But look at the situation that just occurred. The very first Pokemon is an unbelievably fast Weavile, who is going to maul whatever stands in front of it with a move that can cause flinching. That Weavile has a Focus Sash, so no matter what, it will attack at least once. But remember something else. I have to get through the first fight at all, and we did so that time because of some unbelievable luck. Which means it's not going to happen like that again. All of this, while still trying to maintain an order of your Pokemon such that the best Pokemon possible is out first each battle. As it stands, I'm feeling like I have to keep Talonflame up front because he is the only one who can slice down the Ribombee at the very beginning. This means he has to go into the second phase up front most likely, and still die, because next time I absolutely need to put Galvantula in against Umbreon to use Sticky Web. Absol at the end cannot be allowed to kill whatever it wants, so I need to make it lose speed. Then, the third fight. The damn existence of Aurora Veil. I need to put Brick Break back on Heracross, Bulldoze be damned. But it would also be really nice if I could just delete the Hail too. The best idea for that is Sunny Day. So let's look at Sunny Day and... What? 5 of you can learn it? Okay. What really sucks is the Pokemon that I think I would have liked it most on would be Galvantula, the only one that can't learn it. Even so, this opens up my opportunities immensely. For now, I decide to put it on Houndoom in place of his foul play. Dark Pulse is plenty powerful with his special attack alone. We then return to the Nightmare Room, and after enduring skipping through all the text and waiting for our controlled friends to walk in, we begin again. But we come back to that first turn, where Marowak used Rock Slide. Here's some really bad news. Even though I still kill the Ribombee and put in Sticky Web, Rock Slide hits both of my Pokemon, and they both faint. Fucking horrendous. It doesn't matter who faints in this fight as long as you win, but trust me, my previous file had the hardest time breaking through the first fight alone. So... Huh? Ribombee, what are you doing down there? I've never seen this. Hopefully it's not a problem. So, what now? Well, Aerodactyl like last time, and also Arcanine, to begin the double group attacks. Oh good, Ribombee got out of the shot. Let's get back to this. Arcanine and Aerodactyl begin the assault, taking care of each other's missed targets when necessary. But we have a huge problem. Prima fucking Rena. Oh fuck no, it's happening again. Next to that is Volcarona, literally everything I can't deal with right now. I have to switch Aerodactyl to Iron Head against Primarina, which isn't super effective, but it does more damage without a mischance and can still cause flinching. Arcanine will have to go for Heat Wave since it's her best move here. Ironhead takes half of the seal, but Heat Wave unsurprisingly can't finish it, while the Volcarona also takes half from Heat Wave. The Volcarona then blasts Arcanine with Hurricane and confuses her. Amazing she didn't faint. Even more amazing, literally the only reason we didn't lose this turn, Primarina flinched. With that, I switch back to Rock Slide to make sure the damn Volcarona dies too, and thankfully their side is wiped. Arcanine goes a turn without hitting herself. Yanmega Muck next. Yanmega down to Rock Slide, Muck takes half, but then Arcanine does hit herself, and Muck's Rock Slide takes her out, while also cutting a swath out of Aerodactyl's HP. Scolipede comes out to my Heracross, my Rock Slide bashes back Kane the Bug, and a Brick Break chops Muck in half. Another threat comes in, Nidoking, along with Vivillon. But unlike last time, Heracross's close combat, assisted by the Rock Slide that beat Vivillon, easily takes out Nidoking. If it isn't clear, Sticky Web is helping so much right now. Nidoking would normally run me over, but that one speed stage lost is all it takes for someone like Heracross to overtake him. The rest of the fight goes simply. Mimikyu and Meowstic easily dispatch. I won the first fight twice in a row, but now the sickening feeling about RNG is getting worse. I only just barely won because we avoided a Sparkling Aria from Primarina by a flinch chance. If Galvantula dies to Rock Slide every time, then we are in so much trouble. But for now, we are sent into darkness again to fight the second stage. It is imperative that things do not faint in this fight, but we are faced with this completely disgusting Weavile with a Focus Sash. Talonflame cannot kill in one hit, and his chance to outspeed it is pretty unlikely. This time around though, I know what I need to do. I never put up Sticky Web last time, and it cost me Heracross too. There's a Pokemon I can set up with Galvantula against, and for that reason, I have to repeat the same first turns against Weavile in order to make sure it happens. Talonflame puts up Tailwind, reduces the Weavile to 1, and dies. You know, Icicle Crash can miss! I learned that from last time, and it means Talonflame could live. But for now, I just flatten the forehead of this stupid weasel and then coax out Umbreon. This is what I need to set up against. Galvantula comes out and uses Sticky Web first and takes a foul play. It's annoyingly close to half damage, and when I Bug Buzz, not only is the range very close to half, after Umbreon foul plays again to bring me close to death, it has leftovers. Damn it! I must switch. Galvantula won't likely hit a Bug Buzz that big. I go into Heracross, which has two effects. First, she takes the damage much better. Second, she burns herself, so Guts is ready right away. What's great is that Heracross is faster, and a Brick Break takes out Umbreon. Now comes Mismagius, which means it's back to Aerodactyl for an easy crunch. After that is Gothitelle again. This time, I know that crunch wasn't good enough, but I have something better. Houndoom goes out and spaghettifies the Psychic type with Black Hole Eclipse. Smooth, but now is that damn abuser of Sucker Punch. I have a full HP Aerodactyl though, which means he'll survive a punch, but if he rolls his 10% miss chance with Rock Slide, then the gauntlet will be over. He hits the bird and kills it. That leads into the final Pokemon again, Mega Absol. But this time, the Sticky Web will hamper it. Is Heracross fast enough now? Yes, and she kills with close combat. Okay, back-to-back attempts getting to Phase 3. I'll take it. But it was just then that I realized I made a mistake. I didn't put Houndoom into position 3 on my Pokemon list. Instead, it's Arcanine. That alone should show you how fucked up this sequence is. Even the order of your Pokemon, past the first 2, is that important. Let's find out how much better we can fare this time. Galvantula and Arcanine lead, and Galvantula has to just Sticky Web. It's too important not to do. I hate this so much though, because after that, Ninetales does the all-too-expected Aurora Veil. I hate you, and I hate you too, Clefable, who landed another Fire Blast. Come on, that's a 15% mischance! Meanwhile, Heat Wave was not able to kill either opponent, burning the Ninetales. Into a veil, I have to put Heracross to break it, but that's so dangerous against these two fairy types. Really frustratingly, Ninetales is so fast and uses Dazzling Gleam to take off half of Heracross and an annoying crit third off of Arcanine. Brick Break cracks the veil and the Ninetales, but then Arcanine's Heat Wave miss chance bites me. What a massive disappointment. It maybe wouldn't have killed, but I needed it badly there. A Dazzling Gleam from Clefable kills Heracross, and I put out Aerodactyl. The left side puts in Sandslash. Fuck this hail, that thing will have Slush Rush now. Aerodactyl was still faster somehow and impacts Clefable's face, but Arcanine is way too slow to get there and dies to Rock Slide. Damn it, I needed it so badly there. It would have killed for sure. Now right side puts in Bisharp for the first time, and the attempt is lost. We are so far away, and with Arcanine down, we have no more group fire attack. Houndoom can come in and use Flamethrower on either of these fire-weak Pokemon, but Aerodactyl is out-typed right now. Even worse is when Bisharp uses Sucker Punch and kills Aerodactyl. Oh no, not you too! Houndoom pays him back, only to get crushed by many rocks living on 1 HP, then dying like a cartoon to the last ice pellet that strikes him on the head. And all that luck and progress gone again. I then do put Houndoom third in my party and go back into hell. The first turn happens again the same way. Acrobatics, Sticky Web, then Rock Slide. Very importantly, Galvantula dodges the rocks again. Aerodactyl Rock Slides Volcarona to death, doing most of the work on Marowak, who is then finished by Bug Buzz. Primarina and Leavanny next. Leavanny annoyingly dodges Rock Slide, but Primarina doesn't and dies to the subsequent Thunderbolt. All Leavanny did was knock off Galvantula's Zap Plate. Muck next, Aerodactyl slides both. Leavanny dies, but Muck survives both that and Bug Buzz, but he flinches. Rock Slide wastes Vivillon and the rest of Muck next turn. Now Nidoking is here again with Scolipede. The bug dies to Rock Slide while Nidoking takes a lot of damage before blizzarding to kill my Galvantula. Houndoom replaces him to Z-move away the Nidoking as Yanmega is beaten by one more Rock Slide. Reduced to a 2-on-1 again, Kane's last two Pokemon both faint against my greater numbers. Now what about the next fight? I still cannot avoid an Icicle Crash with Talonflame, so the entire fight goes exactly the same way as last time, except that Galvantula gets a special defense drop on Umbreon, so he can kill it himself. Honchkrow doesn't dodge Rock Slide. Gothitelle dies to Black Hole. Absol is outsped, but a crit keeps me from knowing if Heracross can kill it with an unboosted close combat. Finally, Mismagius is crunched. This fight is really consistent, with the only big problem being if Rock Slide misses the Honchkrow. As for Talonflame, I'm sure there's something there that we could keep him alive. But if we win the third phase, then it won't matter at all. The two mystery opponents now face my Houndoom and Galvantula. My plan is to use Sunny Day to cut off the hail from the Ninetales and thereby ruin their Aurora Veil turn too, and maybe hope that Fire Blast misses. Guess fucking what? Ninetales is faster than Houndoom! Fuck you! This is horrible! Something has to change here. That veil can't be coming down. I lose too many Pokemon because of it. As for Galvantula, he once again can't find a 15% miss chance. With a Sunny Day out, I decide to go into Arcanine to Heat Wave, hoping we can just overpower the veil. With Flamethrower against Clefable, we almost can, but Ninetales survives on literally the skin of its fucking teeth. Next out against me is Espeon. It loses speed and gets outsped by Houndoom and one-shot by Dark Pulse. But that damn Ninetales got to chip at us once more with Dazzling Gleam before melting in the next Heat Wave. Then the two send out two more Pokemon we haven't seen yet, Frostlass and Alakazam. We now know everything the right side will send. Houndoom outspeeds Alakazam and kills him in one Dark Pulse. Huge! But Frostlass goes before Arcanine and hits him with a Thunderbolt. Houndoom doesn't die! Arcanine then wastes the Frostlass with one Heat Wave. But next comes something so horrible. Glaceon and Bisharp are back, and that Bisharp has Defiance. So the Sticky Web just gave it 2 attack stages. Here's why that's horrible. Do you remember what move it used? I do, and that's why I'm begging it to target Houndoom with it while he wastes time with Sunny Day. Instead, that wretched thing hits Arcanine with Sucker Punch and defeats her. No, the chance was there. Here's what's even worse. Aerodactyl comes out and then instantly dies to another Sucker Punch from Bisharp. You have got to be kidding me. It's all over, just like that. Houndoom is taken out after using Sunny Day, again trying to waste a Sucker Punch. Though Heracross for some reason doesn't get Sucker Punched, she can only kill the Bisharp and Mega Horn the Metagross before running out of power. Falling on my face this close to the end hurts. That Bisharp is a massive problem. I need Sticky Web to be there, but that means it gets to have double stages of attack plus Sucker Punch. As we saw, Aerodactyl was worthless against him, so that means if we don't have a way to focus him down, then he'll just ransack our whole team. I don't know what I'm trying to do about the third phase still. I feel like if I can get better control of the fight, I could win it. I try again without any changes, but this time, Galvantula gets hit with Rock Slide. But Galvantula lives! Wow, that's so good, and it basically sets up the rest of the fight for me. Since Galvantula can survive either on a damage range or a miss, this is enough to keep this first fight consistent. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the first fight is actually consistent enough to warrant not talking about it anymore unless something crazy happens. That shouldn't be true for any stage of this gauntlet, but I have to save some time where possible. The next fight though does have something crazy happen. Talonflame burned the Weavile on the Flare Blitz, meaning that it dies with Talonflame. This is actually bad. Now the unknown trainer gets to send out something in response to me, not the other way around. I haven't encountered this scenario yet, and it will probably end horribly for me. I decide to stick with Galvantula, but that gets the enemy to send Miss Magius, who gets ready with a seed to crit. I should have pulled Galvantula, but I'm pretty sure nothing would survive it anyway, so I put the Sticky Web down to guarantee the rest of this fight, just so I have a chance at the third phase again. This means that Galvantula dies to a critical Shadow Ball. From here, the rest of the fight falls down like before. Crunch Miss Magius, Close Combat Umbreon, which is a one-shot, Rock Slide Honchkrow without missing, Z-Move Gothitelle, and Outspeed Absol. This fight is also very consistent. So I'm going to skip talking about it as well unless something develops with Talonflame. It's time to suffer again in the third match. And this time, we have yet another different combination. Houndoom and Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is especially good against both Pokemon here, while Houndoom has the Sunny Day to remove the hail so Sandslash can't exploit it. Aerodactyl outspeeds and kills Ninetales with Iron Head easily, while Sunny Day goes up. Unfortunately, Blizzard comes from Clefable to hit both of us, nearly taking half off of Aerodactyl. The next turn goes so well though, as Glaceon comes out. Iron Head beats Clefable and Flamethrower burns up Glaceon. No damage incurred on my side. Now comes Bisharp and Frostlass, and this time, with no Sticky Web, Bisharp is not boosted. But it doesn't matter. His Sucker Punch is still enough to kill Aerodactyl. God damn it! Flamethrower was still aimed at Bisharp, and that takes it out. But just as Aerodactyl dies, Gardevoir shows up. That's it, I lose. Aerodactyl is the only thing that reliably kills Mega Gardevoir. With my team so thin, I put in Arcanine for Heat Wave in the sun, trying to focus down the Mega with Flamethrower too. But both of their side outspeed Houndoom to kill him first, and Heat Wave only takes half off of Gardevoir, Frostlass fainting. The left person sends out the second to last of their unseen Pokemon, Bronzong, as I'm left with Heracross. Heracross is defenseless as Gardevoir hyper voices her for a one-shot, but Arcanine hangs on and Heat Waves both Pokemon, emptying their side. But with a Pokemon who is fairly slow against a side with no Sticky Web, Alakazam and the final unknown Pokemon, Jinx, proved to be too much for Arcanine to handle. It was so close. If Gardevoir wasn't allowed to decimate me, then I could have done it. The big problem there, though, was the fact that I got no Sticky Web down. It really ruins the fight in the end. The first turn in the third phase goes badly again. Sticky Web, Aurora Veil before Sunny Day, and Fire Blast doesn't miss Galvantula. Next turn, sending out Aerodactyl, I try ignoring the Veil and use Ironhead on Clefable and Flamethrower on Ninetales. Aerodactyl takes a nasty blizzard and somehow lives, but he can't kill the Clefable. Houndoom does, however, kill Ninetales. A dazzling gleam puts Aerodactyl on the brink as Bronzong comes out next. Sadly, though Aerodactyl kills Clefable, Houndoom's Flamethrower isn't enough for the Bell, who rock slides to take out Aerodactyl. Houndoom nearly dies to it too as I send out Arcanine. This was a bad move because Aurora Veil is still there, and now Bisharp shows up. Both of my fire types focus to Bisharp, who kills Arcanine from full HP because of his Sucker Punch with upped attack. Bronzong takes out my Houndoom, and only Heracross remains, for once again far too much opposition. I have gotten to the third battle in 5 straight attempts. That's wild to me, but it's clear I need more to deal with everything. But as I was writing this, I then thought about something. I said in the past that I wished Houndoom could learn Heat Wave. While it's true that Houndoom cannot learn Heat Wave through level up moves nor egg moves, there's something I didn't account for. Tutors. Like the dude who just showed up this episode teaching Heat Wave. Yes, 1,000 times yes. With this, Houndoom's utility against the third phase increases immensely. I have to hope it's enough. I decided another change, which I don't know if this will help anything, but Arcanine has not used any physical attacks the entire gauntlet. Why would I have her attack EVs maxed? I reset them and put them into speed instead. Every bit helps. We return to Glass Hell. Once again, stages 1 and 2 go down much the same as earlier, so we return to the phase we have to win only one time. We got here with no Talonflame again, which starts us with Houndoom and Galvantula. Like several other times before, we put up a Sticky Web in Sunny Day while they get an Aurora Veil and a Fire Blast hit again. This time though, I replaced Galvantula with Heracross to brick break the screen right away. But though she was looking at Ninetales, the Fox actually dies first to a crit Heat Wave, so the brick break does a moderate amount to Clefable instead, shattering their shield. Unfortunately, and infuriatingly, Clefable lands another straight Fire Blast to kill Heracross! Already this is not going well, but we have a setup. Arcanine comes out, and we now have the dual Heat Wave, with Sticky Web holding down their side and Sunny Day boosting our power. The only thing to pray for is no misses. We get no misses and destroy Clefable and Frostlass, but we are quickly rained upon by Bronzong and Gardevoir. Houndoom got a Heat Wave in before Gardevoir attacked, taking about half her HP, but it maddeningly missed the Bronzong just then. I thought something would die to her Hyper Voice, but to my amazement, both of my fire types live with Houndoom at a sliver. Better, Arcanine's Heat Wave goes before Bronzong and melts it. But Gardevoir is just barely alive! Next out is Jinx, and Gardevoir went after Houndoom. Oh shit, please don't miss either of them. Yes! One of the worst threats is out, and Jinx went down with her. After that, my sunlight goes away, but the best thing to see comes out next. Bisharp, next to Glaceon. That's so important, because it means that if Houndoom or Arcanine hit Bisharp, it'll die. It doesn't matter now if he Sucker Punches one of them, but then, in a welcome turn of events, he chooses to Sucker Punch my nearly dead Houndoom, leaving Arcanine healthy. Then I got more luck. Glaceon's Blizzard missed, and then Heat Wave disintegrates the Bisharp. Glaceon hangs on with red health and a burn as Alakazam appears. I only have my ridiculous Mega Aerodactyl left, but he's ready. He goes for Rock Slide in order to kill Glaceon before it can act against Aerodactyl. So importantly, it is enough to kill Alakazam too. It's happening. We have a shot. I was almost sure at the time that these were the last two. The damn pseudo-legendary, and the Sandslash who gets no help from weather now. Is this the end of Glass Hell? It's over! It's fucking over! It's done! God almighty. What a turnaround in effectiveness since my last file. I did it. I beat Glass Hell without using items in battle. In only 6 attempts! But this fucking fight almost stole it from me at the last second. A crunch from Aerodactyl was not enough to kill Metagross, but then it missed Rock Slide against Arcanine and died to her following Heat Wave, only for that move to miss Sand Slash! Its Rock Slide made me go cold, but then both of my Pokemon survived. It had to be that way too, because I forgot about Espeon afterwards, but since Aerodactyl just barely lived, it could crunch Espeon, and then Arcanine did not miss his Sand Slash with Heat Wave, and it was done. Arcanine's speed increase may have made the difference there, I don't know. Yeah, about that. I left the power anklet on her from training speed EVs, so her speed was halved. I found this out later, which made this win even more ridiculous. What made the bigger difference was the second Heat Wave on Houndoom. With nearly everything in the third phase weak to fire, Heat Wave with Sun was unbelievable. Even so, throughout that last battle, there were still so many moments that luck had to be on my side for it to reach this conclusion. Absolutely fantastic. I am so happy this is finally behind me, and this time it will be the last time. Those are the same words I said when I beat this on my previous file. I know this because I named the files I kept from that time as such. 2 files named Hell and Never Again. The thing is, those 2 files aren't screenshots, they're videos. Back before I decided to imprison myself in this game for a 4th time, during my file that I would complete, I knew I had to do this fucking fight again. In my second playthrough of Reborn, I beat Glass Hell for the first time, but that was the playthrough I stopped before the one I would complete. I'd play through the whole game again knowing I would have to suffer through this once more. Once. So I decided I would record it, long before the concept of this series, just to show it to others maybe, and to remind myself. Now you get to have a better look at what happened when I was here last. And yes, I will count the resets for you. Let's start with the initial team I went with. A team that is agonizingly worse against this gauntlet than what I use today. Sigilif, Camerupt, Blastoise, Dusclops, Vanillux, and Heracross. This team is woefully type mismatched against the army of Bug, Dark, Ice, and Psychic types. Seriously, why would I bring Psychic and Ice to this? The first turn of battle shows how bad that Rabombi would have been. It pranksters Sticky Web down every time. For a Trick Room team, that's fine, but Trick Room was far too unreliable here. I could barely beat half of Kane's and Shelly's team on the first try. 10 attempts in, I had not beat the first phase once. I would throw attempts away at the first failed RNG check because my strategy was so paper thin that I basically decided that a single miss against them or crit against me was more than I could handle. Like I mentioned earlier, Primarina was stomping me, and I was desperate to beat it, so I started with trying to use Charge Beam with a Dusclops. That should give you an idea of how bad I was back then. Also, I didn't have Freeze Dry on Vanillux, confirming that I was just that oblivious to the Clutch Master's true power when I faced Amaria. Eventually, I switched Dusclops' Charge Beam for Swagger in order to stop Primarina from attacking. I remember that vividly, and it was a heinous strategy, introducing even more luck into the fight. Finally, after 19 attempts, after exhausting Shelly's side completely thanks mostly to Camerupt doing what Aerodactyl was doing today, I beat Kane and Shelly for the first time. It took me over triple the number of attempts to beat that first fight back then as it took to win the entire gauntlet today. Of course, that leads into Phase 2. I got my shit stomped. Camerupt could not kill Weavile in one attack. After 3 of my Pokemon died, the max revives started coming out. I tried doing this in front of a Mega Absol. Needless to say, I got nowhere, and my first attempt at Fight 2 ended in failure. I got back to it on attempt 26. I could take out Weavile and Gothitelle without losing a Pokemon, but it was downhill from there. I somehow got to the end of the fight, only for Absol to demolish my whole team as I impotently tried to find a way to use max revives. On the very next attempt though, I got back to it, only for Camerupt to flinch to Icicle Crash such that I had to use potions to heal him so he wouldn't die to Weavile. The fight was running down to death again, until I discovered the secret. As a filthy item user, there was one Pokemon who would let me revive my whole team. The abuser of Sucker Punch. Honchkrow against the Sigilif could not help itself but to attempt Sucker Punch. After I revived 3 teammates, it finally Brave-Birded me. But this gave me the in to use Trick Room against Absol and let Heracross win the second fight, with 2 Pokemon remaining. I used revival items like crazy, somehow making progress through the final battle, until Alakazam and Jinx on Psychic Terrain courtesy of Alakazam ran through my Pokemon as fast as I resurrected them. 27 attempts gone, only 1 that got to the final phase. Attempt 30 saw another win on Phase 1, and an item scummed win on Phase 2. On Stage 3, my plan was simple and awful. Use healing items and whittle down the left opponent only, letting Clefable sit around and wail on me. But as soon as the right side's stronger Pokemon came out, the attempt was doomed. Attempt 32 got all the way to the end again and died. Attempt 38 reached Phase 3 again with 5 Pokemon alive, the best I had done. It got far, but I eventually went down to 1-on-2 and it was over. After 48 total losses, I finally made my first team change. I took out Blastoise for Luxray. All because of the Primarina. I swear, I was so one-track mind back then. It didn't make anything more consistent in my opinion. But finally, on attempt 52, I made it back to the third phase, and after finally reducing the fight to a 2-on-1 by defeating the left opponent, I scratched my way past the Gardevoir and Alakazam at the end of the fight to win. This is why I was afraid of Glass Hell. This was my experience from last time. Can you believe that I somehow beat this fight on a previous file, and it was even worse? All told, it took my previous file 52 attempts to beat it, and even with speed up on the entire time, these 2 recordings amounted to 5 hours. I don't know how I ever did it, but now I have finally overcome this horrible gauntlet, in my opinion, the worst in the whole game. I hope I never have to commentate a fight that looked like the way I did it before for the rest of this series. So, what's our reward? More darkness, more confusion. A line that is fully audible. And then finally, the horrible cry of the Pulse Hypno once more. And what happened? What is this? Am I dreaming? Am I dead? What follows next is a massive story section, one that is based heavily on visuals. If you're usually a listener only, I'm sorry if this next section is hard to follow. There will be several lapses in speech, because what you'll see on screen will speak all those thousands of words I could not muster up. Regardless, what we'll see here will be very confusing to the non-initiated. All you can do is walk around on what appears to be a carpet of stars. To the left is a light shard, which your team will surely need desperately. There is only one path forward, which leads to a man who says something familiar. He's the station master, who punched your ticket to Reborn, questioning why you'd go there. Why did I go here? Why did I get there, and not them? By walking forward more, you find Julia. She asks if I'm going to take on the Reborn League. Of course I am. What else can I even do? We follow a vague approximation of the road to the Grand Hall to find Victoria. Ame asks her to bring me in for salvation. After picking Froki to join us on this long, hellish road, we go back down the stairs to meet Kane. But my sleepwalking is shattered when Kane speaks my name. He says that he's been wandering around here for some time and has started to get worried. He also cannot determine what is going on. He asks if we want to stick together to find out. He admits that shouldn't be too hard. There's only one path forward. We each had our own path. My path led me to Julia first, who says she won't go easy on me even though I'm the one he chose. Fuck you, Fern. Fuck you, Fern. When our path was blocked, we found another to reach Florinia. Florinia hopes to reach someone else. Despair is ever present. Jolted awake with 100 volts. Make that 110 volts. When Heather was taken, Anna was met, who knew our light was the brightest. Anna assures that she will open a way for me. Breaking through the haze again, Kane is relieved to find us, saying he's been seeing some really weird stuff, including a version of me, but from the past. He pleads that I stay close this time. I can't be close. Did she defeat the inner chaos? Despair. Guilt. A past not my own. the past of Cain, who suddenly appears tangibly once more. Like he's seen things about us, he knows we probably saw things about him. He said they were why he ran away, but then he only ran in circles. Whereas I can say what I want to do in the future, he cannot. He knows that his constant wandering and disappointment are on him. He says we should go on first this time. Sticking together never works out anyway. The doctor stands before you, and will do what is necessary for Lizzie's sake. Amid everything else, Lynn haunts this place too. A reunion for the first time. Darkness for one being comfort, the other pain. Then, a person we've never met. She speaks of the meteor that went farther than any other. It reached a planet where it decided to rest, but only became stardust before it reached the surface. But all of the people on the planet made a wish upon a star, and were happy and hopeful. All except one. Whose checkered past would bring darkness to him again. Another voice, unknown, maybe unreal, but not unheard of, speaks. It asks if we know who our real ally is. Who really let us get this far? We're having fun, right? Why else would we keep playing? And now I have to break you out of this stupor to warn you to save now. Because when you move forward to the top of this tower of stars, you'll be confronted with a nightmare. The Pulse Hypno. This isn't real though, right? None of this can be real. Why is this happening? Scream into the void. It cares not for you, nor this hypno, and only one of you will survive. Not this. Oh god, not that nightmare. Gotta shake it off. Have to focus on this now. Even in this unknown land, you must fight. The pulse hypno that caused so much horror, the centerpiece of Glass Hell, is a level 100 hypno, and now we can look at the pulse readout. On top of absurd defenses, this psychic dark type has no guard for a specific purpose. But right now, we have to turn our attention to something else. The pulse hypno is not the only thing unknown to us, because wherever this is, it possesses a new field effect, rare and deadly. Starlight Arena. Welcome to the Starlight Arena, a field that did not exist before the final release of Reborn, which now accompanies a Requiem fight that also did not exist. It will be a menacing field that greatly amplifies the mystical powers in the Pokemon type chart. First, Dark moves gain 50% power and a Fairy secondary type, a very interesting combination. Fairy moves for their part gain 30% more power, while Psychic moves increase in power by 50%. Unique to this field is how weather affects the battle. That is, if any weather is active, those power boosts are cancelled, which will be very important to keep in mind. To continue with affected abilities, Marvel Scale is activated, and Shadow Shield, on top of having damage dealt to the bearer while at full HP, will also water down super effective hits by 25% of their damage at any time. Victory Star additionally boosts damage dealt by the bearer and its allies by 50%. Illuminate raises the bearer's special attack by 2 stages on switch in. You might have noticed that 2 of the abilities I mentioned are legendary signatures. That will be a theme, especially as we move into moves that are affected. Doom Desire, get this, is quadrupled in power and has a fire secondary. What the fuck? Hopefully we never have to fight a Jirachi on this field. Meanwhile, these moves all double in power. That is a mammoth list from a power perspective, though I find it funny seeing moves like Swift and Comet Punch up there with literal legendary moves. Though, a 120 power move that can't miss is pretty insane. Meanwhile, these mostly lesser moves gain 50% more power, though Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast may be the banes of your existence. Solar Beam and Solar Blade, by the way, become Fairy type moves. Cosmic Power will raise both defenses by 2 stages, while Flash will lower accuracy by 2 stages. Geomancy no longer requires a charging turn. Wish restores 75% max HP, as will Moonlight as long as weather doesn't interfere. Healing Wish and Lunar Dance additionally boost the recipient's attack stats by 1 stage. Aurora Veil can be used without Hail. Nature Power becomes Moonblast, oh boy. Camo becomes Dark. Secret Power may lower special defense by 1 stage. A Magical Seed will raise special attack by 1 stage and apply Wish to the user. Now, at this exact moment, fighting against this Hypno by itself, this field doesn't seem so bad. However, do not be mistaken. This is a killing field, and will be one of the fields that savages you with its sheer power. Legendaries call this place home, and though you don't know yet the role legendaries play in this game, let me say this. These move and ability changes were assembled with precision. Nothing done with this field will go to waste. You'll see sooner than you think. Depth 6. Difficulty 8. Now the pulse. Don't think that my preparation for Glass Hell did not take this monster into account. It is a part of Glass Hell just the same. That's why I'm glad it's double weak to bug, so Galvantula will be well suited to buzz it into oblivion. Of course, more speed will always be welcome, so I start with Talonflame to Tailwind. Then we find out what Hypno uses no guard for. Hypnosis. Uh-oh. I quickly switch off Talonflame to Galvantula while Tailwind is still blowing, and thankfully, it makes Hypno's combo into Dream Eater fail. Bug Buzz then rings out loud against the pulse, but it only does a third. Then Galvantula gets one-shot by a crit Dark Pulse. Hell no! I decide to use brute force against it with Aerodactyl, who uses a powered-up Crunch against Hypno. It nearly kills the Pulse, who Dark Pulses again, but thankfully, it did need a crit against Aerodactyl, which it didn't get. Tailwind may have gone down, but Aerodactyl makes sure that Hypno follows it. A wicked battle. Unmissing Hypnosis with Dream Eater, while being a tank and a half. But after everything we just did in the previous 3 fights, losing to this single opponent is unthinkable. With that, the only thing we could know with certainty was real in this place is gone. Now, surreality returns. But just after seeing Bennett's inner demons, we encounter another Pokemon, a Gardevoir, that isn't just a Gardevoir, it's Gossip. She states how she is happy, if this is death, because she was able to help her master. She says that, unlike her love for Radimus, this happiness is truly her own. She reveals the truth she knew, that the love she felt was only the reflection of the love Radimus felt for his love. Whether she was only meant to have his feelings rather than her own, she says she will no longer know. Why are you here? We can't be distracted. Especially not by this sideshow. We relive another memory which we gained from a computer monitor first. And another specter watches us. Then, another memory that is not our own. 2 brothers stuck in the cold. Why? Then suddenly, back to where we started. What? Who? And then another nightmare strikes. Stop this. I have to stop this. Wait, who was... And then, clarity shatters the haze. A voice speaks. From the sea of darkness. Is Luna? She walks to us, trailing starlight from her path, and greets us. She says we've been here too long. She calls this place her home, then steps aside and beckons us to take the path forward. We walk south, and then, with a building sound and light, the next thing we know, We are back in the glass workstation. Immediately, the people we see here are vastly unexpected, but more vast than that is the alarming chasm where our battles in Glass Hell took place. Shelley is the only familiar person, while Sarah is here along with Elias. But that's not Elias. That's Radamus, and that's not a joke. He apologizes for being disguised like this right at this moment, then speaks to Sarah nearby that not all is lost yet. Sarah replies that she should have known that she would lose everything, as Radamus wonders if her taking the pain of loss on before it happens is worth it. She shoots back at him if that's how he feels having just lost her. Both of them, in fact. Radamus assures he's upset about it, but says that he has become more used to losing hers. He says that rather than focus on who is lost, we should concentrate on who is left, telling Sarah she was heroic for saving Shelley. But Sarah doesn't care to hear this, as she believes she was too weak to stop them, and there's no getting any of them back. Radamus then points to me as the evidence that not all may be lost. And then Radamus says the most accurate line in this entire series. Yes, I am rather confused. Did you walk through the void? It is now that the answers begin. Some of them. For Radamus's part, he tells us that Luna was summoned here by a friend, and Radamus escorted her. We now go into the past, where Radamus, Luna, and Gardevoir stand at the top of the same bad idea that I looked at a little while ago. While contemplating if they will make the same mistake, Sarah then arrives. Luna is surprised to see her self-adopted mother here, as Radamus introduces himself. He inquires why Sarah has come to a remote location, to which the Ice Leader responds simply, parenting. When Gardevoir exclaims what a wonderful turn of events this is, Radamus asks if it was Gardevoir who called Sarah here. Sarah confirms. After some deliberation, Sarah decides to go with the other three to try to find Bennett. That's when Sarah asks what they're doing here, to which Radamus gives the same reply. But furthermore, Luna says she was summoned to this place by Shade. The party decides, rather than climb down the broken glass riddled destroyed elevator shaft, they would take the other elevator in the shed and pass through the solved glass workstation. Yeah, you're welcome, Radamus. I don't see you solving these puzzles. Of course, this then leads into the moments when I no longer had control. In the middle of Glass Hell, the party rushes in as Gardevoir exclaims with a familiar figure of speech. They witness me give the sapphire bracelets to Bennett's Volcarona. Oh, now you have one. Though Gardevoir is quick to suspect us, Radamus calls out this strange situation. At the same time, Sarah confronts Bennett, who is upset that she's gotten involved too, pleading her to get out while she can. She threatens to ground him for 45 years unless he abandons Meteor now. Make it 50, he retorts, with no intention of going with her. Bennett then turns to Zero to ask why the lights flickered twice like that during those specific familiar sentences. Zero has no information about why it's happening. Bennett then says how he wishes to make it clear that he is not the same person he was, and apologizes specifically to Luna. He says there is no excuse for what he did. Bennett presses Zero on the wavering lights, but the Meteor agent playing 3 agents at once says the energy readings are just fine, just that the pulse is power cycling. However, the hypnotism isn't breaking. Bennett tells Zero they need to subdue the new intruders, to which Zero decides he will have me do the honors. To this, the party realizes for sure that we are being hypnotized for Meteor, and that's when Luna steps forward to try to defeat us. Bennett is upset to see this, but Luna tells him to be silent, and to be the new person he said he was. To this, Bennett knows he must not spare her, and so tells me to defeat Luna. And thus, you learn who the second fight was against in Glass Hell. Umbreon, her original ace, a brand new Mega Absol, her returning Honchkrow Jub Bird. Of course, being that Glass Hell is in the rearview mirror, we know how this battle ended, with only my Talonflame fainted. Luna is not surprised by her defeat, as Zero gloats over our friends that they can't stop Meteor anymore. Luna, though, reveals her plan was just to soften me up, so that her parents can stop me, to triumph as a family. To this, Radames steps forward and asks Sarah if he may have this duel. She tells him that he may leave this place in tears. Bennett looks on flustered, seeing the overwhelming odds, and that's when he gives his assistance. He throws us full restores. Now you see why our team mysteriously healed for the final stage unless they were fainted. Thus, the final stage, that horrible 5-on-12 I had to endure, was against Radames and Sarah, and the Mega Gardevoir was Gossip Gardevoir herself. But endure it, I did. As Sarah wonders aloud what I'm made of. Providence suspected Radames. Zero, still acting as Lumi and Eve as well, takes all the credit for the victory, but Bennett berates him for jeopardizing their plans, saying all Zero wanted was to feel control. Bennett continues to tear down Zero's incompetence, which he was only able to mask while he was joined with Eve and Lumi. Bennett accuses Zero of letting his emotions take over his actions. Sarah then jumps in to ask if all Bennett said he learned from Elias. Bennett denies this and admits that, despite it being his goal and using Elias for it, he is not cut out to be one of the Elite Four. But Bennett has had enough, and commands Zero to make the Pulse Hypno put everyone else to sleep. But to this, Gardevoir steps forward. She knows that Meteor could dispose of Radames and everyone if they put them to sleep. That's when she suddenly begins gathering her power and declares she will not let that happen. Radames knows that this is a sign she is planning on doing something to protect him, even at the cost of her own life, and tries to reason with her. They should rely on their other allies. But Gardevoir yells that there's no one left, saying no one else could stop me. That's a hell of a change in perception. She affirms this is the only way. She will destroy the Pulse. It is her purpose. When Radames tries to calm her, she yells it is what she was asked to do. Gardevoir tells Radames this is what she told Gardevoir to do. To this, Radames is dumbstruck. Bennett also tries to talk down Gardevoir, but she screams at him, calling him a liar. That's when the energy becomes palpable, as Luna says that one Gardevoir fact that people love to throw around. A Gardevoir's power can be pushed far enough to form a small black hole. Holy fuck, we're doing the black hole thing? To this, Bennett yells at Zero to take control of Gardevoir now instead. But before she can be hypnotized, she tells Radames that she will love him more than she or anyone else ever could. Zero yells that the Hypno has targeted her as the Pulse lets out its terrible cry again. But it's too late. In the darkness that follows, Luna speaks in her whimsical way. She says her time to follow infinity has arrived, and bids her parents, of her own choosing, farewell. The aftermath is what we see in the present. The entire area where the Pulse Hypno once wrought Meteor's horrible machinations has been obliterated, with Kane, Luna, Gardevoir, and even myself apparently taken with it. Zero loses it completely, but Bennett somehow maintains composure and tells the nearby broken agent to report to Lynn in Labradora, while he takes the bracelets. Zero goes off quickly. Oh, by the way, nice fucking teasing item, as Bennett's regret comes out. He discovers that his mother is still alive, but then realizes the person she saved was not Luna, but Shelly. It wasn't like Luna wanted to be saved. She stepped into the black hole herself. When Radames quizzes Bennett on if this was the result he wanted, Bennett gets mad and throws it back at him and his Pokemon. Radimus then does his famous hat shift to that of a disguise of Elias, asking if Bennett would listen to him. Bennett says that relationship was simply the only way he could get what he wanted, but realizes now he can be free from Meteor if he just disappears now with the bracelets. He speaks that he will go destroy the surveillance footage, but then Radimus reminds him of the other agent that just fled. Bennett starts to bolt for the door when he suddenly faces the first domino of this entire nightmare. Awake at last, Laura. Bennett attempts to smooth over what he and Meteor had put her through, and in his recompense, hands her the sapphire bracelets. Back in the hands of their original family, Laura is confused, as Bennett then says he has to go, until Laura asks if she can help him. You heard that right. Laura wants to help the person who assisted in her own kidnapping, the person who then admits to her the truth behind her ejection from the Elite Four. Elias wrote a false termination notice, and she was hypnotized to write her own resignation, after which Bennett stole her spot. He apologizes and once more tries to leave, and yet Laura is still interested in helping him. What a soul of forgiveness. She reasons that, even if he had done bad things, she can see he's trying to change. If so, she wants to help him do that. Bennett groans, but accepts, and tells her what Zero looks like, and asks if she can catch him. She says her Pokemon can outspeed anyone with the right weather. Yeah, thanks for that little nudge. Bennett goes off at the same time to destroy the tapes, and to meet with her later to discuss the Elite Four issue. This leaves Radimus, Shelly, and Sarah, the last of whom mourns the loss of Gardevoir, Kane, Luna, and me. And just as Radimus says she should not dwell on the worst, what the fuck? What is happening in Reborn? What power does Shade have to bring people back seemingly from the dead? Thus the flashback ends and the present continues. Radimus says he also cannot fathom what Shade did to bring me back here, but apparently I'm not allowed to quit. When Radimus asks what I saw before returning, telling her Luna, Sarah's demeanor changes considerably. She doesn't know what to believe or count on anymore, but Radimus makes it clear that we should hold out hope that, somehow, Luna may return in a way like I did. You never know who will come through the door next. And here's where despair is overtaken by hope. Anna and Noel come into the room just then, and after Anna does her usual thing, seeing cracks all over Sarah's skin that aren't there, the befuddled Ice leader asks why they are here. They're here to meet him. Radimus. Their father. Radimus is overcome with joy at the sight of the two he had to give up many years before, apologizing for their hardship. He then learns of the names the twins have been called, only for Radimus to say that those aren't the names their mother gave them. Instead, Noel's name is Painter, and Anna's Fantasia. Radimus withheld those names to keep them safe so Team Meteor could not find them. It is then that Radimus reveals why he gave them up, and why Meteor was after him. He had stolen the 4 keys. He had a friend of his disguise them as jewelry, resulting in one of them breaking in half, becoming the sapphire bracelets. Radimus gave that jeweler one of the keys and found strong trainers to hold and hide the others. The sapphire bracelets went to the Belrose parents, the ruby ring to Corey, and the amethyst pendant to his wife. He reinvented his whole life to go into hiding, believing the story was over. Instead, Meteor rediscovered him and the keys, thus beginning a new story. It was shortly after this that his wife disappeared, and he made the hard decision to hide his children. In the end, they still became entangled with Meteor. But now, Radimus corrects one wrong. He gives Anna the amethyst pendant. Radimus laments that he had to lose Gardevoir and Luna, along with Kain, to find the twins, but Sarah now takes the optimistic approach, saying that this could have gone worse. And then, another voice comes from the door. Two girls, unfamiliar, step inside, as Anna runs to them happily and turns to everyone to introduce Lumi and Eve. And hope shines brightly to blot out the despair. The two sisters greet us as Eve immediately apologizes for what has happened. They explain how their fate became terribly intertwined with Zero, and Eve's intelligence was abused to create the pulse machines. She had little choice in the matter, but made Meteor agree to the condition to preserve Lumi's and her own body. She said that she tried to find a way to return themselves to their bodies, but Zero's presence in their conjoined mind prevented that. Of course, we know what allowed them to return: the defeat of Pulse Magnezone. Eve then thanks Anna, who explains to us that she and Noel switched places with the sisters, saying it was Nostra's idea. With the Sajaya sisters able to use their own bodies again, they helped us get through the glass workstation by stealing back their Pokemon, the Glaceon and Espeon. Unfortunately, they could not do much about what happened after I came into this room. Eve believed that she could power down the pulse once it took control of me, but discovered instead that it would just auto-reboot. Lumi says they continued to power cycle the machine, hoping I could break through the shroud of the hypnotism, instead only allowing bits of obscured dialogue to be heard. Lumi then expresses her sadness about Kain, who never stood a chance in this place from the moment he entered. Anna says, though, that if I could come back, maybe he will too. Radimus then says maybe we should all vacate this place, as the sisters are told they should come with us to Calcenon City. When we go there, Eve says she needs to speak with us about the remaining pulses. Before leaving, Sarah points to Shelly, who Anna awakens. The bug leader's first words are asking about Kain. Good thing I don't speak. Then Lumi mentions that there's a guy in the eastern elevator. Holy crap, Hardy! Yeah, I haven't talked about him for the past hour. You're then given the choice to go with this party back to Calcenon. In some way, you'll return to Calcenon City, Eve waiting on the steps of the Pokemon Center. Before speaking with her, you can talk to the characters we had just shared the last half hour of exposition with for some more backstory and relationship points. Particularly, we hear from Shelly, who tells us much the same about what happened before she was put to sleep. She's regretful that she couldn't do anything to save Kain, but shakes it off, saying it'd be better she go talk to someone else than to feel guilty. To the west, Saphira is back on her feet, with Charlotte trying to talk her down about going off to find Laura now that she was saved. Saphira, meanwhile, promises death to Bennett if Laura isn't okay. I don't think Bennett has much wiggle room on this definition of okay. Back in the apartment our team huddles up in, we can find Shelly talking with Sarah now, along with a still sleeping Hardy. Shelly thanks Sarah for saving her, to which Sarah says she did what she could with what little information she had. After everything that has happened, Shelly can't tell if where she is now as a person is better than before, but Sarah says maybe they should both look forward instead of back. Now, we speak to Eve, whose information about pulses goes still beyond what we already knew. She says that Zero was being ostracized before she and Lumi were freed from him, so her information isn't total, but she tells us there are 4 projects we must know about: Mime, Clawitzer, Pulse 2, and Arc Pulse. Mime, as we know, was meant to capture and hold an area, but was supposed to take Calcenon City too. However, Eve was able to sabotage it slightly by not employing all of her intelligence, Zero none the wiser. She says, though, that the barrier that remains is still impenetrable to all but authorized personnel. She says only someone on the inside could get through the barrier, and she and Lumi do not have such permissions. Clawitzer was meant to pair with Mime while controlling both cities to become an unstoppable weapon. Thanks to Eve's mistakes, Clawitzer was rendered far less powerful at longer ranges. She says that Meteor is unlikely to power the Clawitzer back up since they need to use Chalcedon's power system, but says to be sure, we must put it down ourselves. That brings us to the third project, the one that Eve seems to put the least emphasis on, Pulse 2. Do not be misled. This is the worst of them. Eve says that Pulse 2 was mass-produced, but was made to consider the safety of the Pokemon. Because of this, Pulse 2s do not cause mutations, and thereby give far less power than regular pulses. However, they can be applied to any Pokemon, and the effect is as follows. It gives the Pokemon a small power boost, achieved by uncapping the EV limit. A Pulse 2 Pokemon has 252 EVs in all stats. If you think that's unfair, you haven't seen anything yet. Actually, you have, because one Pokemon we faced already exhibited power like that. The Hypno? No. That Volcarona. Illegally maximum stats. A Volcarona you could never have. Be prepared. The rest of this game will be a never-ending march of Pokemon who are all better than yours. She adds that Pulse 2 has one other effect. It can be used to make any Pokemon obedient to the Pulse 2 user, even stolen ones. Remember that. This brings us to the final pulse. Arc Pulse. A combination of a normal pulse and a Pulse 2, it is meant for one single Pokemon. Arceus. However, Eve says that the project was never completed, as it was lacking a power source to allow such a machine to be portable. She says the reason that Meteor put Agate City to sleep with Hypno was expressly to search for a purported energy source to meet that demand. She believes that since her own expertise, the energy source, and Arceus itself are absent from Meteor, there should be no reason the project gets finished. You ever hear of Chekhov's gun, Eve? But now, speaking of Agate City again, its rock-type leader is awake and takes off to retake his city. After Hardy leaves, Florinia tells us that Agate City's citizens are awakening, but Meteor has gone loud, attempting to suppress the people and take them hostage. Ciel and Samson have already entered the city to fight back against them, but are extremely outnumbered and are asking for help. If you attempt to reach Agate City from the circus, though, you'll find a stampede of people who try to go back to the city being forced back by the people fleeing the city now. Instead, we must go back to where we first entered Agate City, from Route 1. This was another huge moment for me. I had been stuck in Agate Circus since my first playthrough. I had waited years to return to Agate City. Endgame is in full effect. Let's do it. When you enter the city, you'll quickly find our friends battling against Meteor everywhere, but there's several grunts waiting for us in the north. These grunts are still not able to swing a full team of 6, but their Pokemon are pretty dicey to beat without losses. I'm not going to cover these grunts at all, but keep this in mind. As soon as you defeat the first one, the gym leaders have advanced from where you first saw them, which opens up a Pokemon Center and Mart. Once you've gotten past this cultist, you'll see a Light Shard and Hardy just north of you. Take the Shard, save your game, and get ready. Walk up beside Hardy and find Ciel and Samson taken prisoner by the bulk of Meteor's most powerful trainers. Many grunts, Sirius, Solaris, and Lynn. Hardy comes in guns blazing, but Lynn begins to leave, telling Solaris to silence us buzzing flies. Solaris glares after Lynn, still holding onto his position as leader of Meteor, as Solaris commands 2 orderlies to fight us. Hardy gets our back, but you should realize that this definitely won't be the only battle. After what I've already gone through in this episode, the fact I have to do a second gauntlet is very painful. Thankfully, this one is far less vicious, by over half of the Pokemon and no withholding healing. The first round, you're paired with Hardy against 2 Orderlies. They start with Ludicolo and Behem. My team is nearly the same as Glass Hell, but with Vanillux instead of Arcanine. Talonflame still isn't holding an item, so he'll Acrobatics the Ludicolo, hopefully to kill him before he water attacks our water-weak side. Ludicolo does go down to the Acrobatics, while Hardy's Lycanroc uses Rock Slide to clonk the Behem. It lives and responds with Energy Ball to do about the same back to Lycanroc. Next out from the right grunt is a Lapras. Shit, can you please deal with that, Hardy, while I mop up that telephone-looking Pokemon? I'll take that crit, yes I will. Thanks, Hardy. 2 more are sent. Electros and Porygon Z. A lot of the Pokemon I hate to see appearing in this fight. At this point, Talonflame is better used putting up a Tailwind, upon which he is quickly wiped out of the fight by Rock Slide. Lycanroc finished off by an Ice Beam. Into this Tailwind, I put in a Pokemon who definitely didn't need it, Aerodactyl, who Megas and Rock Slides with Hardy's Rampardos coming in. But no matter what my speed was, Electros out-Pryos me with Ion Deluge to institute Electric Field, something that hasn't appeared in a major fight since Episode 1. But besides that, their entire side can't withstand 2 Rock Slides. Into our Rock types, terribly, the Grunts send 2 Water types, Seismitoad and Lantern. Vanillux would love to meet you both. Aerodactyl first Rock Slides, but aggravatingly he misses the Lantern, who surely would have died since Rampardos' Rock Slide did that much extra. Seismitoad's powered up Muddy Water is enough to swamp us both from basically full HP. So yeah, Vanillux, I send him out there to whip up Hail. Then Hardy's Gigalith shows up and re-triggers the weather into Sandstorm. Come on, now I have to deal with accuracy checks from Blizzard, which I desperately wanted to use against these 2 weakened opponents. Oh, that's right. This is the Clutch Master, who wins both of the 70% to kill their side off. They just keep coming though, with Clefable and Magneton next. Vanillux will still Blizzard, but he takes a Flash Cannon for huge damage, then hits only the Magneton, only to die to Fire Blast from Clefable. What the fuck? How many times is a Clefable going to land a Fire Blast this episode? Gigalith's Stomping Tantrum crushes the Magneton into 3 cubes. I already lost Aerodactyl, so no Iron Head on the Fairy type. Instead, I move to Heracross. But then the right side fails to replenish, ending with only 5 like most of the Grunts in the city. 2-on-1, the fight should be in hand, though Heracross then misses her Stone Edge. Clefable pays him with a devastating Moonblast, but she lives to land the next Stone Edge, killing Clefable after she took a Rock Slide. Sadly, Heracross succumbs to the weather plus burn, and I send Galvantula into a Cryogonal. It can't stand up to my lesser Bug Buzz and Gigalith's greater Rock Slide. That brings the first battle to a close, with only 10 total enemies defeated. Overall, this fight is kind of annoying, but with the extra 2 Pokemon on our side, this battle isn't really that dramatically hard. I'm not going to commentate any rematches with this one since it shouldn't be very interesting again. Hardy gloats over the 2 defeated Orderlies, which gets a swift rebuttal from Sirius. Another Orderly moves to challenge us next, but then Solaris orders him to stand down. Solaris declares he will face me alone. He steps forward and tells us that he will extend this challenge despite their greater numbers, but warns that if Hardy intervenes, then the rest of the Grunts and Sirius will attack, as well as Taka. Hardy gives me the floor, as Solaris then says that he has desired a true duel against me, and even goes so far as to admit his respect for me as a trainer. However, he says that whatever traits I have, resolve, initiative, and skill, he also has these, along with more years. Let's finally see then, whose resolve is greater. This is it. The final battle against Solaris. With the team that defeated Glass Hell and the Clutch Master, let's bring down the commander once and for all. To my Talonflame, he enters the battle with his own bird, Staraptor, which shows that Solaris has himself trained to prepare for this fight. That Intimidate is an issue. I need to test the limits of Talonflame here, so I use Tailwind to see if he can survive the incoming Brave Bird. Just barely! Even Hail doesn't kill him, as Talonflame lives with the smallest scrap of HP, which he then exhausts with his own Brave Bird. Staraptor is only down by 2/3, but I need to do something critical here. While Tailwind is up, I send out Galvantula. My hope is that he can set down Sticky Web and survive an attack. It resists flying, and I just need him to survive an attack to land a Thunderbolt afterwards. He goes first to Sticky Web regardless, but against the Staraptor's attack, return, he survives only with enough HP that the Hail takes him out. You would never guess that the Pokemon that Solaris uses would have maximum friendship. I bring in Aerodactyl to easily finish off the Staraptor with Rock Slide, and Solaris prepares to send in Scissor. Houndoom can easily quad damage Scissor, but Sticky Web proves useless this round with Scissor's Bullet Punch, which takes a big bite out of Houndoom. Now the Heat Wave mischance is making me nervous. Good, he landed it. Easy kill. To that, Solaris deploys his second pseudo-legendary, Tyranitar. You know what I like to do to those, remember? Yeah, close combat them for a one-shot with Heracross. Solaris then follows up with another returning Pokemon from the Fiore Gauntlet, Excadrill. I go into Houndoom believing him to be fast enough, but Excadrill outspeeds and beats him with an Iron Head. I went on to realize that the Tyranitar had a much more dangerous purpose. This Excadrill has Sand Rush, and even with Sticky Web, it outspeeds Houndoom and Heracross. Heracross, though, can survive an Iron Head and pummel the mole, only for me to discover it also has a Focus Sash. What a miserable situation. Heracross doesn't get lucky enough to dodge a Rock Slide that Excadrill really shouldn't have used, as I bring in Aerodactyl to take it down. Full Restore. Oh, fuck no! Iron Head Flinch. Yes! Iron Head Flinch. No! Excadrill cracks my Aerodactyl with his own head, and Vanillux, with the Sandstorm still going, is definitely not fast enough to beat the mole. And so for the first time in this series, Solaris has defeated me. Well, better here than at Fiore. After running through the two orderlies again, Attempt 2 against Solaris starts with pretty much the same opening. Tailwind to Brave Birding Staraptor by 2/3, instead finishing it off with Vanillux. This leads Tyranitar to coming out second instead, though now we have no Sticky Web. Despite that, Heracross still outspeeds and whomps the Dark Rock type. This initiates Excadrill's approach, but I will cut that off this time. I switch into Vanillux to switch Weather back to Hail, but I have to switch again to something that will probably die. I decide that Heracross may have done enough and put her back in. Though she survives the first attack, she's not fast enough to go first. That's fine. Houndoom is faster than that, and he goes out to use Heat Wave on Garchomp! Solaris suddenly drops his ace in front of Houndoom, showing that he went to the greatest lengths with his signature dragon, making it all the way to level 93. Houndoom versus a Garchomp is not a new sight in this series, but unfortunately, we will not be repeating Mount Pyrus for one horrible reason. As if there were any better of a time, Solaris now uses Mega Garchomp, who easily goes before Houndoom and destroys him with Earthquake. That isn't all there is to this Garchomp either, believe it or not. On top of being a Mega Evolved Pseudo-Legendary, unbeknownst to you, it is also in a Pulse 2. All of its stats have max EV investment. Holy fuck! The rest of my team is not suited to do anything meaningful to Mega Garchomp in this state. Galvantula is faster somehow, but all he could really do was put down Sticky Web, then die to Earthquake. Vanillux, though he's here expressly for this Garchomp, is not faster, of course. As for my own Mega, Aerodactyl can't cause a flinch with Iron Head and goes down to Dragon Claw, frustratingly because of Hail. That attempt worried me. It seemed as if I did not have the means to get past Garchomp. One speed stage is unlikely to change the outlook with Vanillux. I decide, though, that Talonflame is not doing anything useful in the opening turn against Staraptor, but I want him there on the first fight of this double gauntlet. So why not just switch him out? On attempt 3, I switch Talonflame into Aerodactyl, who doesn't need the Tailwind to go faster than Staraptor, and he resists the Brave Bird. He then easily Rock Slides the bird away. This prompts Solaris to send out Scizor. That's the Pokemon I want to use Galvantula against. I send him out there, and he outspeeds the Sticky Web, but then, irritatingly, he's still one-shot by U-turn. Whatever, Tyranitar took Scizor's place before I had to pick, so Heracross dunks him again. Excadrill is obviously next. Vanillux comes out to halve the mole's speed, then I sack my weakened Aerodactyl into the mole. This time, Solaris leaves his mole there against Houndoom, who melts it with Heat Wave. But then comes the last of Solaris' Pokemon, another holdover from Fiore, Gyarados. This is bad. It will ignore the webs, but the only thing that can deal with it reasonably now is Vanillux. And that's when Solaris gives me the one in I needed. Gyarados goes first, but uses Dragon Dance. It's a good thing Solaris didn't see this Freeze Dry coming. Now Scizor's back. Houndoom meets it like before, and after taking a Bullet Punch, he successfully lands the Heat Wave, and now, there's only one left. Finally, my change to the first turn of the fight allows me to reap this perfect reward. To Solaris' final Pokemon, Mega Garchomp, I send out Talonflame, and end this fight with a no-doubter. And that's it. Solaris, the leader of Team Meteor, has been defeated. A truly worthy final battle. I remember this fight from my previous file being really frustrating for me, because I had his entire team down pat, except for Garchomp. I remember believing I had just first tried this battle, until Garchomp came out and ruined at least 10 attempts. Today, my better knowledge of the game has allowed me to win against Solaris and this double gauntlet in only half of the attempts of Glass Hell. With his boss defeated, Sirius then quickly needles Solaris, mentioning how maybe softness runs in his blood. Sirius then turns to Taka, asking condescendingly if he has something to say. What he wants to say is, "Chatot, help me free the two gym leaders." Solaris roars at Taka for his treachery, as Sirius grabs him and drags him away. Ciel and Samson prepare to square up against Meteor again, as Taka's Chatot knocks Sirius off of Taka. Sirius chases after him, as Solaris looks at the situation with disappointment. This is all he could do. He leaves the Meteors to us, knowing that they stand no chance, and goes after his son. That's when Hardy tells us something absurd. I should go after Lyn. Now? The hell? At least give me your badge so I can have 5 more levels. Samson agrees, though, that I'm the only one who may have a chance. After all, he himself landed a punch squarely in Lyn's face. She didn't even flinch. Yeah, she took a sword in the back, too. The 3 leaders start to dance with the remaining grunts, and that means we must follow where Lyn went through Agate City. When you reach the other side of Sarah's battle, you'll find this NPC who adds yet more impossibility to Lyn's resume. She apparently just walked into the water nearby just now. All signs are pointing to Terminator, I swear to God. Surf over the water and climb up the waterfall to Shiny Sea King? I'm kind of busy, major plot scene here. Here, have this quick ball. Ascend more waterfalls to reach the overlook above the city and walk left, just to replenish that quick ball I just used. Now descend the waterfalls here and dive down. At the bottom of the river, you'll find a silk scarf. Head down and to the right, skip that central tunnel for a moment, and pick up a quick claw over here. Breach the surface of the water and climb more waterfalls to access a megastone, Pincerite. Now go back to that tunnel you skipped, and swim into a cave at the end. Lynn is here, standing on top of a strange rock glyph on the floor of the watery cave. Then she speaks. Again, underwater speaking, but whatever. She muses that the power source they sought was never here to begin with. She then turns to us and says that only an act of God would create something from nothing. In a flash of light, a bizarre column of stone emerges from the formation on the ground. Then Lynn grabs the multiple-ton stone formation with one hand and moves it, then swats us to the side and walks out of the cavern with it. What in the hell are we supposed to do against that? Well, pick up this lucky egg for one thing. Then head all the way back to where we entered the water at first to find Lynn mounted on her hydreigon with the strange stone. Shelly, Ciel, and Samson are here attempting to stop her, but Lynn belittles them still. Lynn says yet more inhuman platitudes that morals are fictions meant to comfort us, and all that matters is control. Who can make another disappear? And who can bring them back? At this, Lynn suddenly sends out a Gardevoir. In an instant, the Gardevoir, like in the glass factory, conjured a black hole, and Samson throws Ciel out of its path, only to be swallowed by it. Lynn gives a screaming Ciel no answers about what happened to him, and ascends from us with the stone. Ciel breaks down, while Shelly murmurs how she was helpless again, while saying something else. That Gardevoir, was it actually the same one as the glass workstation? Shelly feels terrible remorse, saying she asks Ciel and Samson to help, but Ciel says it's not her fault. Ciel mutters she was just not good enough. The flying leader leaves now, as Shelly continues to blame herself for not trying to stop Lynn on her own, or just letting her leave. But Hardy shows up now and says that it's wrong to blame herself for asking for help to do something she couldn't handle. Despite the loss we just suffered, we must keep going on. Hardy tells Shelly she could help the other leaders bring in the meteors they captured, who agrees quietly. With this, Agate City has been liberated. Hardy then brings up the obvious, our battle with him. He says he'll be ready at his gym. Of course, I'd like to go straight there so I can end this unreasonably long episode. Like seriously, I thought I'd have a break from the last two. Instead, it ended up being the longest. But I can't skip right to the gym yet, because it's time for Reborn to drop another anvil of a side quest right on my head. Walk into this house just nearby and talk to this lady named Bee. She's trying to collect data on all of the Pokemon in Reborn. Yeah, you can already see where this is going. She offers rewards for every 100 Pokedex entries we bring to her. Well, at the time when I first spoke to her, I ended up having over 400 caught. Prize number 1, Galadite. 2, Froakie. For me, that's not too important, but it will unlock your speed reset disc if you hadn't picked one of the starters I mentioned earlier. Third reward, the TM for Ice Beam. Now that I like. And fourth, Scissorite. Now, I am short about 85 Pokemon to reach the next reward. So you may wonder if I'm just going to use that skip this fucking ridiculously large side quest Silver Shard back there. The truth is, I really thought I was going to. I figured it was reasonable to do this time. But by the time I reached this part, my desire to do this legit for the series got the best of me. So I decided I would get not just 85 more Pokemon, but the entire remainder of the Pokemon that Bee will reward us for. Yeah, this heaped about 10 more hours of playtime onto this episode, on top of everything else this episode has done to me. I'll have to get back to those rewards later though, as obviously we are 3 starter Pokemon away from being able to finish this quest at least. Of course, you'll want to talk to everyone in Agate City to learn tidbits and find special rewards. One of those people is this kid who says there's a scary secret in the basement of this building. We tell the kid we want to see it, so they leave the elevator open, and we enter a dark room with really shoddy flooring. Yeah, really creepy. So there's nothing in this room. But that shoddy flooring is actually a really crazy hint. You may think that the pattern looks something like a Pokeball, almost like how every arena in the game has one. Well, do you remember something about patterns on an arena floor? You might remember Charlotte's Gym. Yep, this is where you learn the pattern to use to access the secret room behind the Calcinon Gym. So yeah, we already got that Charizardite X there, but interestingly, that room with the PC we couldn't do anything with back then, we'll be going back there soon. If you go back outside and head into this house, you'll find this hiker who wakes up and realizes it's time to hike right now, and heads off. We're going to follow him in a bit too. Up the street, we enter this apartment to find a lady who says her nephew knows us, from a group of friends who liked fire Pokemon. Magma Gang for life. Anyway, this lady wants to trade us a Litten if we have a Basculin. Make that trade with her, and now only 2 starters remain. Next house to visit is the one next to the Pokemon Center, with a lady working at a computer. She says she's having a pain in the ass time figuring out who owns this property, saying that she's trying to access this computer, but a 6-digit password blocks her way. She says she has only one clue. Team Meteor's logo is on the computer. That isn't very clandestine at all. She wasn't keen on trying to get closer to Team Meteor, but notices the Meteor ID in our hand and thinks we can figure out the password. She surmises that the password could be found in a place where this card would get us into. That should remind you of the other horrible thing we did this episode besides Glass Hell, the double magic square puzzle, and more importantly, the 6 digits that turn white when we solved it. Those digits are 139749. A secret door opens. You walk into a room that appears to be strewn with glitter. Oh fuck, this has Terra written all over it. But the messages we find speak nothing like Terra. Instead, to the best of my understanding, these colored bits on the ground are crystals, and the person in those notes was the one who carved the crystal keys into the jewelry they became. Who that is, I can honestly say I'm not sure at this moment. I don't know if this person is meant to be named. In any case, the lady decides she's not going to bother trying to figure out who the owner is anymore, and rewards us the penultimate department store sticker. After she leaves, to go along with the Manectric on the sticker, pick up that Megastone to the right, Manectite. Quickly head back to Obsidia, and rise to the 11th floor for utility and evolution items. Up here, we find a selection of items that we may already have one of each, but now we have full freedom to use multiple of several very good held items. The Rocky Helmet, Expert Belt, Flame and Toxic Orbs, and Safety Goggles to name a few. Besides those, we can buy more copies of several evolution trade items for Pokemon like Magmortar, Porygon Z, Weavile, and Scizor, along with several others. This is a good selection. And I'll say now, buy an Expert Belt. You'll need it in a few minutes. As for the department store, there's only 1 floor left. For now, it's time to go back to Calcinon and to a very strange place to revisit. That cave in the mountain wall that we accessed when we paid for the repairs on these stairs. Why you'd go back there, I have no idea, but you'll then discover a woman here who immediately fights you. The woman, named Mermina, sports an unexpectedly over-leveled team. However, there's no chance I'm commentating this one. Lapras, Gengar, Metagross, Ninetales, Mega Steelix. I was a bit surprised that I won this in one try. She put up a very good fight. The woman mutters something about Agate, before resolving to hide somewhere else, like Caroline's room. No one can access it without the basement key. She goes off, and the hint she blabbed for no reason should tell you where she was headed. go back into the gym and enter the secret room behind it. She is freaked out that we followed her until she realizes maybe we were friends with Caroline. That is, the mother of the Belrose sisters. She doesn't believe that though, as we need to give her proof. How about this family photo I stole from the Belrose Manse 10 episodes ago? That apparently will do the trick. Mermina trusts us enough to tell us something we've already learned. That the person who burned down the manse and killed the Belrose parents wasn't Charlotte. There was a man watching them back then, who she tried to stop herself, but she couldn't, and after that, she was on the run, worried Meteor would find her. She then tells us that this room was a hideaway room for herself and Caroline, which also possesses a private PC storage. She opens it, and then hands us an egg as an apology for fighting and mistrusting us. Looking at this egg, you can tell this is the Torchic egg. One last starter. Now it's time to return to Agate City to take a hike. There was a rock wall here that was blocked by meteor grunts during the showdown, and we can go up it and some nearby waterfalls now. This leads us back to Route 4 to an out-of-the-way part of the mountains. On the right, you can pick up a ground memory. There it is, the final memory for Silverlee. When we head up the waterfall from here, we'll find ourselves very close to the hell we just went through. Heading back through Route 4 in reverse, we will eventually come to this southern edge of that Junction River and find the hiker who ran out of his house in Agate. He greets us and asks if we want to have a battle against him. Progress is only ever made through battling. I blow through his team because 1, no time, and 2, we're going to see all of them right now anyway. After you win, he will then let his Pokemon out for fresh air. His 5 Pokemon will take up spots on this cliff, and when you talk to the hiker again, he'll give you some Pokesnacks to give to them. His Throw, Rhyperior, and Como-O will eat the snacks gratefully or lazily, while the Golem and Altaria will do slightly more, but we'll get to that. First, talking to Kareem once more will have him tell you about how his Throw has been trying to rank up belts lately, but hasn't had much of a chance. He then notices we have a black belt and wonders if we'll part with it. If you do so, the Throw comes and stands next to him and happily accepts the belt, for which the hiker trades us a fist plate, basically the same item. However, do not give a black belt. I learned late and had to revert my save file, fortunately only about 15 minutes. There's a different belt you can give him, an expert belt. You absolutely want to give him that belt instead. Don't keep any black belts in your inventory and give him the expert belt. The Throw will accept it just the same, but Kareem will instead give you a life orb. Holy shit! 2 life orbs in 1 episode. Now that the Throw is standing here, what is the point of these 5 Pokemon standing around? Well, if you give Golem Pokesnacks, he gets so excited he'll roll back and forth and bash into the Como-O. The pseudo-legendary stands up from his nap looking around angrily until the Altaria sings to put him back to sleep. Well, what if you fed the Altaria first? While it's busy eating, the Golem can stub all of the toes on the dragon, who then stands up and sees Throw and begins squaring up with him. The Throw isn't having that shit, and tosses the entire Como-O to the left, which knocks the Rhyperior down the cliffside and grinds a new set of rock climb handholds into it. Kareem is embarrassed about his Pokemon's behavior and says goodbye as he bundles them off. Slide down the cliff now to reach this secluded area and pick up another sweet Megastone, Septilite. Besides that, there's a big nugget, but you may want to stick around in the grass for a moment. If you do, then you'll find the final starter, Snivy. Not just the Snivy either. Just like the Charmander line at Pyrus, you could catch the entire Snivy line in this grass only. Obviously get one of the Gen 5 grass type, and prepare to turn in the final eggs. Head back to Kanaya, hand in whatever eggs you still have outstanding, and finally, one of the massive side quests in Pokemon Reborn is completed. It's time for your final rewards. The TM for Earthquake. Psychium Z. And though I may not use it, the last item's power goes without saying. Garchompite. Mega Pseudo number 1. 3 more to go. But then came time for me to do the grind to finish another massive side quest. Well, partially, but don't mind that foreshadowing. With all the starters in hand, and every other event and in-game trade done to this point, it's now possible to obtain all of the Pokemon that B wants us to collect. The number of Pokemon we need to reach is 731, which does include both Type Null and Silvally and Phione. For me, that means getting another 300 Pokemon. As I said earlier, this took me about 10 extra hours, which was only that fast because of XP candy. Still, I had to stop and battle a Grand Hall trainer for about 300 extra candy to evolve everything I had stored up. Notably all of the starters and pseudo-legendaries, since there's no way to obtain their evolutions otherwise for the most part. Of course, I had to go out and catch many of the remaining Pokemon, and that naturally found me a few more shinies. Time for a lightning round. Abomasnow, Lycanroc, Pelipper, Nidoran Female, Heatmore, Seedot, and Slugma, as well as evolving shinies I had already caught. Raticate, Rampardos, Electivire, Salazzle, Wailord, Fucker, Goodra, Aegislash, and Gallade. Time to return to B to obtain our hard-earned rewards. For 500, she makes an odd comment. Still no luck. With what? First, Electrium Z. 600, she says it's still not there. What is it? Here's Groundium Z, another Z move that can delete some field effects. At 700, she then realizes we're pretty incredible, and even crazier, she still hasn't found what she's looking for. She believes it must be in the last ones, but before we get to that, she gives me one more reward. Blazikenite. Top tier starter and top tier mega. So finally, we turn in the final 31 Pokemon. And yet, what she's looking for is not one of the existing Gen 7 non-legendary Pokemon. It turns out, she has found something that she believes is a new species. She then asks if we would also help her in training this Pokemon. Welcome your new Poipole, the first of the Ultra Beasts to appear, the only one that can evolve. Full disclosure, I do personally consider Ultra Beasts to be legendaries, which I know is contested, but regardless, they're practically better than pseudo-legendaries in some cases. So for the moment, I'm not going to plan on using them like those other classes of Pokemon. Okay, it's time to do the gym. At exactly 100 hours on the clock for this file. No talking to Adrian about strategies. Let's just cut to the chase. For the first time since episode 13, we have to fight gym trainers who are actually people. But like usual, they aren't too tough. What they tell you is how to solve the puzzle of this gym, which involves using rock climb to scale the wall to the left, which causes you to essentially strum the strings stretched across the gym. That was a tongue twister, I'll tell you. As you go, you'll find a series of letters on the ground with a movable block. That represents the note of the string that block is next to. You have to play a particular series of notes to open the final door. What is the song? You can hear it from this final trainer at the top left of the gym. You'll need to replicate the song from the notes by memory and sound. Either that, or ask the trainer again for help, which requires you battle him too, and then he'll give you more information. Of course, I can just give you that information. From bottom to top, the notes are C-E, high G, B-B, low G, A-A. The way on to Hardy is revealed. Heal, save, and enter. Hardy is pumped for this fight. and says he won't be a pushover like his sister. We'll see about that. Before we do this guitar battle but with Pokemon against Hardy, in what is strangely the easiest major battle in this episode, let me go over the team I have to rock Hardy. It should come as no surprise that I would bring some water types against Hardy. This time they aren't screwed over by the field effect, and they said I need speed. So of course, first is Greninja. In doubles, Surf is somewhat clumsy to use since you will hurt your allies too, but for at least half of Hardy's team, that will hit weakness. If I need more precision, or even more speed, Water Shuriken is still here, as long as it doesn't give me CL level results. Strangely, my water type selection without training new teammates is a bit limited, so my next choice is Rotom, washing machine as ever. Rotom hasn't changed since the previous gym leader, but Hydro Pump with Life Orb promises big damage. He's meant to blast down something, while being fairly durable and weak to only one type, which Hardy is unlikely to have. As long as Rotom can kill one thing, that's all I expect. The next and last water type today is Slowbro. When my speedy teammates are finished, then Slowbro will rally my slow teammates to devastate the closers. She herself is also ready to tidal wave a few Pokemon, and is very likely to do even better than Greninja. Now, I say slow teammates, but that's only relative to Hardy's expected ridiculously fast fuckers. The only other actual slow member of my team is Hariyama. He will surely not outspeed anything Hardy uses with his actual speed, but under Trick Room, he will be great. He also has the fake out for field control and knockoff in case there's some really stupid item shenanigans happening on Hardy's side. From one fighting type to another, we have Heracross. Of course, she's been a staple of my team for a while, but even though her speed is great, this is a time when Trick Room won't fail her. She's definitely not on the level of speed of something like Lycanroc, so she'll be happy to use Trick Room when necessary. That brings me to my last, and since I already said I didn't bring any more actual slow Pokemon, you know it isn't Camerupt. Veteran players might chuckle at the fact that I'm bringing Mega Aerodactyl. Yeah, that's a strange pick, being that he's weak to rock, but he's so unbelievably fast and has Iron Head. That's sure to leave a mark where I need it. Also, I'm sort of doing this to be a bit funny. He is tactically sound, but there's a better reason I brought him. You'll see soon. This is the crew to take on the Hard Rocker. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not that worried about Hardy. I know what a couple of his other Pokemon are besides the Gigalith we've seen in several scenes, along with his known ace Lycanroc, and none of them particularly worry me. After Glass Hell and Solaris, Hardy is a breath of fresh air. Let's hope I don't eat my words again like when I said that for Ciel. Get pumped for the penultimate badge. Are you seeing why I wanted to bring Aerodactyl yet? Yeah, here's the thing. I didn't expect Hardy's Aerodactyl out on the first turn. Also, Gigalith Sandstreams immediately, so there goes my idea around water types being very good. Rock types get a 50% special defense boost in Sandstorm. Well, Greninja is here to be the counter to Aerodactyl. Oh, excuse me. Mega Aerodactyl. Yeah, I couldn't resist. The Mega I brought in this episode being the same one that Hardy used, I had to mirror match them. Thing is, that one is 2 levels higher and has maximum speed. So yeah, mine is screwed unless Greninja kills him right now with Water Shuriken. Well, there's a 5 hits. That kind of guts this whole attempt, doesn't it? Needless to say, Hardy's Pokemon, who both use fucking Rock Slide, of course, kill my 2 Pokemon with ease. So yeah, this is over. Here's what I can still do. I fake out the Aerodactyl with Hariyama and then manage to kill it with Hydro Pump from Rotom, but then Gigalith outright kills Rotom with another powered up Rock Slide. Hariyama is alive and faster than that Gigalith. You know what he's not faster than? Lycanroc. I brought out Slowbro thinking Trick Room has to start. That's a laugh. Slowbro doesn't even get close after taking 2 rock slides, and Heracross of course is not faster than Lycanroc either. Well, that's bad. Basically now this means I have to start with Trick Room from the beginning. Moreover, I have to prevent Slowbro from taking 2 hits. The only way that happens is if Hariyama fakes out the Aerodactyl. Here's the really annoying problem. Gigalith. Gigalith is not fast. My Slowbro will go before him with Trick Room, but not Hariyama, so he'll be a sitting duck. Also, if Trick Room goes first, I'll probably want to run it out so that Aerodactyl and Greninja won't get screwed over by it later. So I'll take off the Amplified Rock and give him a Splash Plate for more water damage. Let's try again. Fake Out stops the Aerodactyl in its tracks while also doing Rocky Field flinch damage to it, then Gigalith hits us with Rock Slide. Please dodge the flinch, Slowbro. Okay, good. Now let's see what this Surf does. Oh, it does badly. Somehow it didn't kill Hariyama, but like I said, Gigalith will beat him in Trick Room, and I'm still against the wall. I desperately need to kill things, so I bring out Greninja to out-priority, and Rotom since he's definitely slower than Aerodactyl at least. Helpfully, Water Shuriken manages to kill Gigalith even with just 2 hits, and Hydro Pump lands on Aerodactyl again. Now we're tied. Oh, by the way, you might be wondering why Lycanroc on Hardy's side isn't on the bottom of the UI like all aces have been. That's because that's not his ace. That one is. Yep, that's 97. As it will be, that's the largest lead that a gym leader will have on us. Along with Dusk Lycanroc, he also sends Rampardos. Wow, 165 base attack! What sucks is that Rampardos is also pretty slow. Foolishly, I go for Surf instead of Water Shuriken with Greninja, and Hydro Pump with Rotom, only for Lycanroc to Accelerock and instantly kill Rotom from nearly full. Mr. 165 over there then Rock Slides Greninja to death. You think this is over? Yeah, it's over. We managed to kill the Lycanroc in one non-guts close combat, but Rampardos easily squashes me. Okay, the Aerodactyl joke is over. Time to do something reasonable. Mega Camerupt. Yeah, this makes a lot more sense. With Trick Room, he's absolutely slower than Gigalith, has Earthquake, and Hardy's favorite move himself. He works far better than my own Aerodactyl in this situation. The problem is that he can't be out early. Hariyama has to help Slowbro survive, so his chance to do anything besides Fake Out is pretty slim. Besides Camerupt, I give Slowbro a Life Orb to see if maybe we can make up enough damage to kill something with her Surf. We start round 3 with the same opening as last time, with Slowbro avoiding the flinch again. This time, Slowbro's Surf, boosted with Life Orb, does kill something. Hariyama. Slowbro goes down just the same. Well, now I want to bring out Camerupt, and at first, I'm thinking about who I want to stand next to him Earthquaking, until I realize I have the perfect combo for him. Rotom. It's even better. Rotom has Discharge, which also won't harm Camerupt in return. It's like I planned this or something. Don't believe a word. I stumbled into this just now. Unfortunately, Hardy decides to rain on my parade with a full restore on Aerodactyl. Now it's unlikely to die to Discharge and obviously won't get touched by Earthquake. However, all I need to take control is for Gigalith to die to this boosted Earthquake. Bingo! Aerodactyl takes half from Discharge and is paralyzed, which I don't think will help it get slower than Rotom. Hardy then sends his ace again, which I'm thinking will be fodder to Earthquake, while Rotom will blast the Aerodactyl from the sky. But I had forgotten what Lycanroc did last time, as it does this time. Accelerock Rotom directly down. Shit. That means Camerupt, though he's actually able to kill the defensed up Lycanroc with one Earthquake, is fully open to Aerodactyl's Rock Slide. But he lived it! And next out, Hardy sends the other Pokemon I knew about. Archeops. Hey Hardy, you want to see what it feels like? Yeah, sucks, doesn't it? But I'll tell you what really sucks. This. Fuck my Trick Room! Aw, damn it, I was so close. Hardy sends out his last two Pokemon, the other Lycanroc, and his crazy attack fossil. Greninja, however, is likely to be faster than midday, so I select his Z move, and indeed, I unleash Hydro Vortex on the Lycanroc and easily kill it. But of course, before Camerupt can go, Rampardos destroys both of us with Rock Slide. I only have one more, Heracross. Is my Heracross faster than this Rampardos? No, that's annoying. But this is easily remedied. We go back to what I had on Slowbro from the beginning. Amplified Rock. 3 more turns of Trick Room. We start verse 4, and Slowbro once again dodges the flinch chance on the opening Rock Slide. After both of my openers faint, I send Camerupt and Rotom again. I should have tried to hit the Aerodactyl with Hydro Pump on the off chance it could kill after Hardy once again heals it, but I kept with the safe bet of Discharge. Earthquake crushes the Gigalith away again, bringing out Dusk. Rotom is taken out like before, Earthquake then whomps Lycanroc, and here comes... Oh! For the first time in these battles, a Rock Slide actually missed! Who would have thought? Now Camerupt is at full HP as Hardy's other flying type appears. Greninja softens up the Archeops and Camerupt's own Rock Slide does not miss. Hardy sends out his last 2 Pokemon, and there is nothing they can do to stop Camerupt. I made that much more complicated trying to use Aerodactyl. Camerupt would have decimated Hardy on the first attempt if I had just done that from the start. Regardless, this was pretty painless. Trick Room and something really slow like Camerupt can make quick work of Hardy, though I have a hard time envisioning a way to beat him without Trick Room. I guess if I changed the weather to rain and used even bulkier water types, I could outlast him, but I liked my way much more. My way today was much like my way yesterday, when I used Dusclops for Trick Room and Mega Camerupt. That Cacturn saw more use here, along with Blastoise, Toxapex, and Heracross. My screenshot name tells another story, and that is apparently the fact I did worse today on this fight than before, as this picture is named Hardy Second Try. Oh well, 4 attempts is way less than the 15 I had on Ciel. Also, yeah, this was the only historical screenshot I had from this episode. Obviously the recording for Glass Hell covered that part, but I didn't keep the fight with Solaris for some reason. For shredding harder than Hardy, he awards us the Geode badge. And now, we are one step away from being able to control any Pokemon. Our level cap is now 95. As for his TM, well, Pokemon Reborn decided to let you into the club. Now we can Rock Slide with every Pokemon we want. Hardy says he bets we'll find some use for it. You think, Hardy? Want to pay up some more money? But Hardy's ready to get back to it. As he says, the final battle with Meteor approaches. And with this gym, my second file of Pokemon Reborn got as far as it would. As I've said, I would restart the entire game having gotten to this point when the final version of the game released. What comes after this is something I have only played once before. Episode 19 of the game begins next time, an episode that will take up the rest of this series, and it will all begin when we gain access to the final city of the region. The final gym leader battle, the last stand of Team Meteor, and a horrible reprisal to fill you with despair.